Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Biochemical Madmen in the Marvel Universe. Chapter 61. New York Suburbs. Noah got out of the car. His face was very dark. Hey, boss, wait for me. You can't just abandon me like this. I'm your bodyguard. If there are enemies, my chest is open for you at any time. If someone wants to harm you, let them enter through me first. Quote. Listen to the voice that can't be quiet in your ears. Noah swore that when he returned today, he would relieve Wade from his bodyguard position. Otherwise, he might have gone crazy before he was assassinated. In front of their eyes was a not-so-high building. Although it looks full of technology, it does not feel luxurious. Here, it is the hive. It took so long, and with the Red Queen in place, the hive was already running. Entering the interior of the hive, near the hall, is the arc reactor that Tony Stark sent to build. Then, he took Wade directly into the underground level by elevator. Here is the main body of the hive. When he came to the laboratory, Noah first went to the Infinity Giant laboratory led by Professor Connor. Professor, what's the matter? There was some fanaticism in Professor Connor's eyes. You can't imagine how good the genes of this creature are. The current Goliath is nothing more than the foundation. We have discovered a special genome in this organism. If we can decipher it, we may really be able to regenerate limbs. Quote. Noah smiled and nodded. Then he looked at Professor Connor's arm. How does this robotic arm feel? Is it still working? Hearing this, Professor Connor recovered from the unsullied giant's gene, looked at the mechanical arm installed at the severed arm, and sighed. I didn't expect there to be such an easy-to-use robotic arm. To be honest, in terms of research efficiency alone, this arm may be better than my own arm. This is natural, this is the company's latest technological crystallization. Unfortunately, the cost is too high, it is difficult to have sales in the market. Quote. Noah nodded regretfully. This is the research led by Ivan Vanke. In other words, this is an accessory of his research on mechs. The control requires internal intelligent assistance, which is extremely useful, but the cost is too high. I have to say that Ivan Vanke's brain is really smart. He set his goal directly on the same battlesuit as Tony Stark, just to defeat Tony Stark openly. It's a pity that Ivan Vanke is still working on his first generation of battlesuits, and Tony Stark's Mark series has at least entered the fourth generation. Although Tony Stark didn't talk about this issue, Noah estimated that he should have found a new energy source. Such a comparison, the gap is even bigger. But it doesn't matter, Ivan Vanke's battlesuit is just a supplementary means for Umbrella. Rather than key means, he is more thinking that after the human body enhancement technology matures, the company will have a special force with super soldiers as the core and equipped with steel battle suits. Now that the human body enhancement technology has matured day by day, he hopes that the armor created by Ivan Vanke will pay more attention to the performance of the work and reduce the consideration of human body safety. But it can't be said yet. At least, Ivan Vanke will have to wait until he realizes that there is a gap between the two of them before he can change his mind. The progress of the research on the Unsullied Giant is good. Although the upper limit of the Unsullied Giant is mediocre, but with the Deadpool gene, Noah is looking forward to some surprises from Professor Connor. Coming out of Professor Connor's laboratory, Noah came to Elvis. The center of gravity of the previous urban laboratory has been transferred here. The T-virus is still Umbrella's top priority. Boss, our new product has come out, but it's a pity that it's a quick, ripening, test product. Once it's activated, it will be genetically broken within 3 hours at most. However, the official product is already being cultivated. Would you like to test the data of the new product? Quote. Noah listened, his eyes lit up slightly, and then looked at Deadpool. Wade, do you want to try? New product. Wade was also a little curious. He is still very confident in himself. So straighten your back immediately. Don't worry, boss, leave it to me. Elvis looked at the confident Deadpool and wanted to say something, but in the end he gave him a sympathetic look. He knew the guy wasn't going to die, but because of that, it was miserable. Is the boss trying to take revenge on this cheap-talking guy? Although he has only joined the company for a short time, Umbrella is already an all-knowing star. It's just, this popularity is not a good thing. At this time, Wade is constantly bearing the resentment of hundreds of people in the company. That is to say, the expatriates and Annabella's people are still unclear, otherwise, the number would have to be doubled at least several times. See Deadpool enter the proving ground. Noah showed a smile on his face, and then said viciously, Elvis, put out our new product. Kill him hard. Quote. Yes, boss. Elvis looked excited, then decisively pressed a button. The harsh sirens began to sound, and the huge protective cover was lowered. Deadpool was still expressing his amazement loudly. Finally, the fire shield fell and the lights were turned on, leaving only the observation building, Noah and others smiling. Wade yelled, Boss, hurry up and release your new product, I can't wait to let it kiss my fifth limb. Noah turned on the megaphone. Don't worry, you will be satisfied. After finishing speaking, he pressed the control button, and in the next second, a protective door on the test site opened. A huge humanoid creature with a height of nearly 3 meters appeared. The strong body and explosive muscles all reflect its terror. Deadpool licked his tongue, which seemed interesting. Hey big man, do you want to experience it? As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the terrifying humanoid creature opposite him suddenly roared. No matter how tall he grew, his body size also swelled a lot in an instant. Roar. The roaring sound was deafening. Then, thump, thump, thump. The terrifying body rushed towards him with even more terrifying pressure. Obviously the body looks bulky, but it possesses terrifying speed. Almost in the blink of an eye, he had already rushed to Deadpool. Wade drew out the 2 knives on his back, and before he could cut down, the big guy had already grabbed his head with one hand and his shoulder with the other. Wade was stunned. Sorry if this is a little too fast. Can we do it all over again? In the next moment, click. With a sudden force from this terrifying humanoid creature, Deadpool's head was ripped off. The moment he was thrown away, he stared blankly at the big monster. Mommy fuck. In the observation room, Noah watched the scene calmly. Elvis was amazed. I really don't know how this guy managed to survive like this, it's not scientific at all. Connor and I had worked on his genetics before and were too stubborn to get a clue. Quote. After sighing, he introduced to Noah. Boss, this is our new product, Emperor Tyrant, which uses the body gene you brought earlier. We bred 100 clones at the same time, but only 3 finally took shape. It has been tested once before, which caused the gene collapse of the first experimental body, and this is the second successful experimental body. The power of the Emperor and Tyrant is extremely terrifying, and he can crush most of the enemies without any other skills. Not only that, we also instilled a sense of fighting in the body when we were cultivating it. Quote. Battle awareness. Can this also be instilled? Noah was a little surprised, he had never heard of it before. Elvis laughed. Actually, it's not indoctrination, it's just subconscious indoctrination that gave the Emperor and Tyrant some simple fighting skills, perhaps due to the influence of the T-virus, the Tyrant's learning ability is still good. Coupled with the original fighting instinct, this kind of Tyrant is definitely an Emperor in close combat. Even stronger and more terrifying than the T-103, we believe that the Emperor Tyrant is at least a work of the same level as the Chaser. Quote. Noah nodded, this is a good result. The two were talking, not caring about the tortured Deadpool in the test site at all. The dead waiter at this time has been torn into various pieces by the Emperor and Tyrant. But even so, on that half of Deadpool's face, there is only life and nothing to love. Even if he can't die, he will still be in pain. The boss is too cold-blooded, obviously he worked so hard to please the boss, and even offered his chrysanthemum for it. After a while, Elvis couldn't stand it anymore. Although Wade is relatively cheap, listening to his occasional screams, I still feel a little soft-hearted. As for when, it was because Deadpool's throat had just been repaired, and when he made a sound, the Emperor and Tyrant tore him to pieces again. Boss, let's go here, the fighting ability of the Emperor and Tyrant has almost been demonstrated. Noah chuckled. It doesn't mean to end at all. He is very clear about Deadpool, don't look at his screams. In fact, I may not feel much in my heart at this moment, but even so, Noah still feels quite refreshed when hearing Deadpool screaming so pitifully. Taking this opportunity, the two carefully analyze the data of the Emperor and Tyrant. The Emperor Tyrant is a tyrant made of gold as the body. The biggest shortcoming at present is that the success rate is too low. The advantage is that the power and explosive power of the Emperor and Tyrant are the strongest among all tyrants. Not even the T-103 or even the Chaser can compare with it. Of course, the biggest feature of the Chaser lies in the integration of multiple functions. However, the Emperor's Tyrant's ability to control firearms and other items is much worse. He is a melee tyrant who focuses on strength. The two watched the experiments in the proving ground while recording the required data. I do not know how long. Deadpool was too lazy to cry. The Emperor and Tyrant suddenly froze, and then turned into a puddle of liquid and exploded. Deadpool finally got a breather and began to recover quickly. Seeing the collapse of the Emperor and Tyrant, Elvis regretfully said, "A few million, just scrapped." Noah laughed and said, "From the current situation, the technology of the Emperor and Tyrant is relatively mature, and it may become our commodity. By the way, how difficult is the control?" Quote, Elvis said, "The data is good, and it has a good ability to execute some more complex instructions. The chances of a runaway happening are extremely low." Quote, "This is enough." Noah is delighted. Recently, the trial models of Fighting Wolf and Tyrant are selling well. In addition to the military and SHIELD, more than one department, and even some private forces, have contributed some sales to him. Added up, it is also a considerable amount. But more high-end products still have the potential for the company's development. When Deadpool came out of the testing ground, what he saw was the boss and Elvis writing something seriously. It made him unable to express his full of complaints. At this moment, he really wanted to ask, "Boss, haven't you noticed that your dearest employee has been playing with his head like a ball for so long by that monster? Doesn't your conscience ache?" With full of complaints, Wade simply walked out by himself. He is also Noah Allen's personal security consultant, with high access authority, and the laboratory has little defense against him except for some special test areas. When he walked to a laboratory, he suddenly saw something, and then whistled loudly. "This thing is great." In front of him was a armor that looked a little weird. "The big guy, it must have been because I didn't have the equipment just now. Now, let's fight again." Speaking of which, Wade looked at no one around, so he simply put on the armor and went to Noah. Not long after he left, Ivan Vanki walked in. Seeing that the battle armor that had been placed before was missing, his face was ugly. This is his war machine armor. On the other side, Wade has arrived at the laboratory where Noah and the others are located. Noah saw his suit and immediately recognized the source. Deadpool looked excited. "Boss, release another tyrant of that kind. I will never lose this time." Noah was quite speechless. "You don't think that you, the Emperor and Tyrant, can stop it with this kind of thing, right? That is the crystallization of Umbrella, and it is not so easy to solve." Quote. Hearing this, Wade's excited expression faded a bit, but thinking about it carefully, it's really possible. Since he took over his girlfriend Vanessa, he has attached great importance to this job. He didn't care much about the Emperor and Tyrant, but if his head was hit like a ball by the Emperor and Tyrant, then it would not work. Not because he felt ashamed, but because he had a sense of crisis. If he can't beat this Emperor and Tyrant, will the boss think he is bad? He is not stupid, he knows that he is not capable of protecting Vanessa. Even now he is a little unclear about the true identity of the enemy he is facing. "I only know that the deeper you dig behind it, the more troublesome it will be. He himself cannot die, but Vanessa is not immortal. Therefore, he is now eager to show his worth." Noticing the change in Wade's expression, Noah's heart moved. "Although the Emperor and Tyrant are very strong, I have a very simple strengthening method here. If it succeeds, the Emperor and Tyrant should not be your opponent. The only side effect. May be a little pain, would you?" Quote. Wade's eyes lit up. "It's just pain, it's not a side effect at all. What should I do?" Noah said with a smile. "There are two ways, one is the T-drug injection. This is a product that the company is still in the laboratory, and it has certain risks, but your recovery ability is nothing at all, and the second one is much simpler. Remove all your existing bones and replace them with an indestructible alloy bone." Quote. Hearing the back, Wade trembled all over. What the boss said was horrible. Boss, please give me a set meal." Noah nodded. Then he said to Elvis, "Get ready, start with T1 first, then use T2, T3, all once." Elvis hesitated. Boss, isn't it too much? These three have different manifestations. Once injected, it may have irreversible consequences. Noah said calmly. Deadpool's recovery ability, we have not been able to analyze it until now. First inject T1 for observation. If it succeeds, we will give up first, but... Saying that, Noah shook his head. The 3 T-virus enhanced serums have their own emphasis and have different manifestations. The only thing they have in common is the astonishingly low success rate. So while serums have been developed, they haven't been tested in humans. To be honest, he doesn't hold out any hope that Deadpool will succeed. According to his observation, Deadpool's recovery ability has a crisis emergency response mechanism. If his recovery ability is 1 under normal conditions, when a crisis occurs, this recovery ability will increase, and it can reach 5 or even higher. Otherwise, although Deadpool's recovery ability is not weak, in this world, it is actually quite weak. Just like he remembered that Deadpool once had a cold. Jokes, how can a person who can recover in minutes after cutting off his head, how could he catch a cold? But if it's a cold that is judged harmless by his special recovery factor and doesn't trigger a self-healing reaction, then it's normal. In summary, facing a cold, Deadpool actually has a simple cure: a knife in his chest. Listening to the conversation between the two, Wade didn't respond. Elvis thought about it and said solemnly, "Well, I'll keep an eye out for changes." He didn't want to give up with such a test subject who had such a high probability that nothing would happen to him for the experiment. Safety and ethics. To hell with it. The staff prepares very quickly. Looking at the various large and small instruments bound to his body, Wade was a little confused. "Boss, didn't you agree to give me an injection?" Noah comforted. "It's true that you only need to get an injection, but because you are the first person to experience it, you need to collect some data. Don't worry, it's fine." Wade tightened his ass. "I always feel that the last sentence of the boss sounds quite dangerous." But relying on his resilience and his desire for the future, he succumbed. "Well, please be gentle. Although mine has been given to Vanessa, but the chrysanthemum can still be donated." "No, my chrysanthemum has been decided to be donated to the boss. You guys, just figure it out." As he said that, Deadpool put on a generous expression. The people around felt a chill. He even wanted to inject the 3 serums at the same time, causing his genes to collapse. It was really disgusting. Closing his eyes, Wade looked forward to it. He is not stupid, of course he knows that this kind of thing is dangerous. But he is very much looking forward to some changes in his body. Professor Connor had told him before that his body had almost been kept in this state. Once the cells are damaged, they regenerate in a very unscientific way. Maybe chopping off a thigh every day to sell meat can make a lot of money. It must work, even if it's bad. Following the serum injection, Deadpool's brain fell into a coma. Noah and others looked at the changes in the instrument, and the data soon became abnormal. This scene made everyone nervous. Within 10 seconds, Wade's body began to twitch, as if he had epilepsy. Elvis immediately reacted and ordered the people to deal with it. Noah didn't move, staring at the changes in the data. Deadpool's crisis response has obviously been successfully triggered, and the self-healing factor is working. The transformation of the T-virus is extremely overbearing, otherwise, it would not dare to conduct human experiments so far. But now it seems that the T-virus is vulnerable to Deadpool's self-healing ability. Within 2 minutes, Deadpool opened his eyes and asked excitedly, "Boss, have I become very powerful now? Can I change from receiving to attacking?" Noah patted him on the shoulder and comforted him. "Not yet, you still suffer, but it will be done soon." With that said, Noah motioned directly to Elvis. "The next one." Deadpool still wanted to say something, but soon, that drowsy feeling struck again. A few minutes later, "Boss, this time, am I?" Noah interrupted him expressionlessly. "Don't worry, it's almost there." After finishing speaking, he turned to look at Elvis. "Continue. 3 kinds of T-virus modified serum, and he even directly injected the T-virus stock solution into it. But in the end it didn't work at all. Until then, Noah gave up completely. Looking at the sober Deadpool, Noah said with some helplessness, "It seems that you won't be able to enjoy the benefits of the T-virus, so prepare for physical transformation." But I still want to thank you for your contribution to the research of the T-virus. Perhaps the company's enhanced transformation serum has made the progress a lot faster, and the company will not forget your contribution. Quote. Deadpool. AA. Physical transformation, of course, is to replace it with alloy bones. Originally, Noah wanted to exchange the vibranium skeleton for Deadpool, but unfortunately the price of vibranium is too expensive, and the position of Ulysses Crow is not easy to find. As for going straight to Wakanda, he's not crazy yet. There is no comparison between him and Wakanda now. But even so, with a pair of super alloy bones, Deadpool's combat ability will definitely be greatly improved. Hearing Deadpool's screams when he was reborn, Noah couldn't bear it. This kind of pain is comparable to purgatory, and it is definitely not something ordinary people can bear. A few hours later, looking at Deadpool standing in front of him with a refreshed face, Noah was silent for a while. Maid, what a lunatic. It seems that he underestimated Deadpool. Boss, I feel like I'm awesome now, I want to fight that emperor and tyrant again. Wade's face was full of excitement. Super alloy bones, if you have the ability, you can grab my head and try to kick it as a ball. Noah glanced at him. If you agree to bear the production cost of several million, I can meet your request. In an instant, Wade withered. Millions, wouldn't it be nice to keep it for Vanessa? The transformation of Deadpool was completed, but Noah still felt a little pity. The successful transformation of the T-virus was what he was really looking forward to. A super Deadpool with strength beyond the limits of human beings, indestructible alloy bones all over his body, plus the ability to recover from immortality, can definitely wrestle with the Hulk, and the battle will most likely be delayed until Deadpool wins. But it's not bad now. Deadpool is just the beginning, and the next step is to comprehensively strengthen the Punisher and Umbrella's strategic security forces as soon as possible. At that point, Umbrella will be able to really show her fangs. As for Annabella, that's just a biopharmaceutical company, isn't it? Danger, non-existent. If anyone wants to try it, go ahead and try it. The current world is still in a state of peace. Even around the world, there are some unknown events that cannot be explained. But at least, these hours haven't had an actual impact on ordinary people. This situation will continue for at least the next few years. This is also Noah's most precious development time. When Loki appears, the danger of this world will increase geometrically. As for killing Loki in advance, Noah thought about it, but it was not realistic. Not to mention whether he has the ability to catch and kill the god of tricks in Asgard. Even if he can do it, it is impossible for him to do it. It's too involved. Whatever the reason, Loki is the son of Odin. Protected by Odin. Even if Loki made a mistake, it is impossible for Asgard to allow him to kill the Prince of Asgard. This may even directly attract Odin's attack. Ji may not be able to make a move, let alone, even if Ji is willing to make a move. Noah also had to consider the consequences of the matter. Ancient One is resisting the evil forces from many dimensions for the Earth, and has restrained most of her power. Turn Odin, a natural ally, into an enemy, and the Earth may be in jeopardy. And since there are Fantastic Four in this world, it is very likely that a star-swallowing attack will occur. Will Ji make a move? Can she make a move? At least the way of defeating Tun Xing in the movie is a bit of a joke in his opinion. Noah can't gamble on these possibilities. Maybe at that time, he will need the support of Asgard. So Asgard is an ally that must be won. He is also an Earthling, and must take these long-term things into consideration. If the Earth is finished, he has no possibility other than wandering the universe. But that was not the result he wanted. And most importantly, he wants that gem. The easiest way to change Thanos' snap is naturally to split the gem one step ahead. He doesn't trust anyone, only in his own hands is the safest. Not only the Mind Gem in Loki's hands, but also the Space Gem in S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Time Gem in Ji hands are all his goals. It's not easy to get things from Ji, so the first two are his current goals. But these are things for later. What he can do now is to work hard to develop himself. Only when Umbrella becomes a behemoth that no one can ignore, and Annabella is enough to affect the lifeline of the Earth's economy. He has the ability and the strength to covet these things. So don't look at him developing very fast now, but he is still far from his goal. Meanwhile, outside a small town in New Mexico, A hammer fell from the sky, sparking the idea of a shield. On the other side, General Ross came to the Umbrella Building. Hearing the news, Noah immediately realized that the business was coming. As soon as the two met, after a few simple and polite words, General Ross explained his purpose of coming. The tyrant from last time, I want a stronger one. Hearing General Ross's simple and direct way of speaking, Noah couldn't help feeling that General Ross deserves to be a real high-level military officer. This man was obviously more arrogant than Lieutenant General Reynolds, and he didn't mention the price at all. Noah had a smile on his face. It's a pity that it doesn't cost a fortune. General Ross, when I chatted with Lieutenant General Reynolds last time, the Lieutenant General mentioned you. I heard you used Tyrant to catch that Hulk. Quote, General Ross's face remained unchanged, and he said, yes, those Tyrants have done well, but not so well. This time I came here, I don't want those experimental products, what I want is a faster and stronger enhanced version, you should have it here. Quote. Noah immediately smiled and said, of course there is, in fact, we are already considering eliminating the trial Tyrant now. That kind of thing, after all, is an unstable product of a laboratory, not a mature biological weapon at all. If you really have the intention to buy, I can recommend several new products of our company to you. Quote. Speaking, Noah took out a virtual imaging device, put it on the table, and pressed it lightly. An avatar of a tyrant appears. Compared with the trial Tyrant, the image of this tyrant is not much different, but it can be clearly seen that it has a bigger physique. Noah moved the image while introducing T-101, our company's first mass-produced tyrant. This is an improved version of the trial Tyrant. It can be said that it has improved all-round data. At the same time, the mastery of various weapons is definitely the best weapon to face any enemy. Quote. General Ross carefully looked at the various data, comparing it with the data of the prototype Tyrant in his memory. After a while, a smile appeared on his face, and he uttered two words directly. Price. Noah smiled even brighter. 50 million units, compared with the trial model. Although the mass production model is stronger in terms of data than the trial model, we have successfully reduced the production cost, and it is an absolute conscience product. I believe that for the Army, even the Air Force, if there is a Tyrant to strengthen the Army, it will be a huge improvement. I can even say that if there are enough T-101s, they can conquer any area. Quote. General Ross calculated, compared with the trial model, this T-101 is indeed an all-round improvement, and the price is also lower. He has directly lowered the price to below 40 million. Originally, he only planned to equip the Hulk Striker team, but now it seems that he can upgrade the military. Just when he was about to make a purchase, Noah said with a smile. Of course, if T-101 still can't meet your requirements, we can give you two new options. Oh, this sentence successfully aroused the interest of General Ross. The T-101 is already excellent, but I didn't expect there to be even better. Noah clicked on the virtual imaging device, and the screen switched immediately. Next, please allow me to make a grand introduction. Tyrant codename, Chaser. This is an advanced version of the Tyrant whose performance is completely superior to that of the T-101. Although the combat method is similar, compared with the T-101, the data of the Chaser is definitely at the crushing level. This is a top-level work produced regardless of cost and price. So its price is $130 million, and there is no room for any price reduction. Quote. Hearing this price, even General Ross couldn't help but tremble. This price is already comparable to the price of an active military aircraft. Trade a plane for a pursuer. Even he did not dare to make such a decision lightly. Noah's face remained unchanged, and then introduced the Emperor and Tyrant. His offer was $150 million, because the Emperor and Tyrant are obviously more suitable for fighting the Hulk than chasing him. Naturally, the current laboratory cannot create pursuers and Emperors and Tyrants, but his system can. It's quite interesting to have a biological weapon completely controlled by oneself to serve the military. So, is computer control better, or is system control better? He really wanted to try it. So, will General Ross buy it? Noah calmly watched General Ross struggling there. In this regard, he is very confident. After hesitating for a long time, General Ross nodded. The previous Tyrant, let me decide to trust you once. I hope your products will not disappoint me. The Chaser and the Emperor Tyrant, each equipped with one. In addition, I also want 30 T-100s, each with a price of $45 million US. As you should know, the Air Force doesn't demand much of these, but if they're worth enough, you'll get more orders from the Army. Quote. What General Ross said was quite domineering, and he didn't give Noah the slightest room to refute. Noah didn't mind either, and nodded with a smile. The price was already beyond his mind. Although the price of the T-101 is lower than that of the prototype Tyrant, this is normal. The price of the trial Tyrant is actually seriously overflowing. In addition to the advantages of flexibility, it is not worth the price at all, so sales have not been very good. At present, major military technology companies are developing their own combat robots or technological battle suits. After all, Tony Stark has proved the excellence of the suit with facts. As a true genius, Tony Stark has always been the vein of major companies. In the next few years, I am afraid that all parties will gradually have similar exoskeleton combat auxiliary equipment, and even combat robots. In fact, there are signs of it now. More than one company has begun to launch its own exoskeleton auxiliary equipment. As for their umbrella biochemical weapon, its universality is too low, which is an unavoidable disadvantage. This is also an important reason why Noah already has so many biological weapons, but still regards the T-Virus series products as the main selling point. A small biological weapon similar to a fighting wolf is hard to surpass in terms of function. The price of the Tyrant is too high, and it may not be a good thing if similar biological weapons appear too quickly. It's not that Noah can't develop cost-effective products, it's just that he has been intentionally controlling the types of products. He doesn't want to attract this world and start another world war. That wouldn't do him any good, or the world. Even as an arms dealer, he is a principled arms dealer. Anyway, with the emergence of special creatures, the military's demand for these things will become higher and higher. A few days ago, he also heard that a strange amphibious creature emerged from the Han River in South Korea and injured many people. Also, he had heard some news about giant monsters, but he didn't know whether it was true or not. In short, there will probably be more and more similar things in the future. These are enough for him to make a fortune. The performance of the trial Tyrant is insufficient, but the performance of T-101 is enough for other companies to compete. And the existence of the Chaser and the Emperor and Tyrant can meet the needs of the military for high-end products. This two-pronged approach is his way of dealing with other military industrial groups. Noah laughed and said, "Please rest assured, the excellence of the enhanced Tyrant is absolutely worth it. In addition, Umbrella also has some mechanical military products. If you want to take a look, I promise to give you the best price." Quote. General Ross waved his hand and said simply, "Sorry, but I trust your Tyrants, but not your machines. I can get better ones from Stark Industries and Hammer Military." Quote. After speaking, he got up and left. Noah shrugged. He didn't expect much from the beginning. However, Hammer Military Industry is a typical example of small profits but high sales. Although the price-performance ratio is good, but relying on their high-end technology, General Ross may have found the wrong person. As for Stark Industries, Tony Stark himself has announced the closure of the weapons department. Expect him to open it again. That's something to wait for. But it's normal. Umbrella has just started in the military industry, so it's unrealistic to want to get the military's list. Fortunately, the buyers of weapons are not only big buyers like the military, but also many small buyers. They prefer high quality and cheap things, so take your time. Umbrella, after all, mainly focuses on biological weapons, and the technological military industry is only auxiliary. When General Ross left, the smile on Noah's face was completely filled. This order is not small. The key point is that General Ross is right. The Air Force is not in great demand, but the Army is the big one. After the performance of T-101 is known to the Army, he can naturally make a lot of money. Coupled with the cost of post-maintenance, it is enough to be called a wave of fat. At this time, Abrera is in a period of rapid development, and every income can be converted into great benefits. S.H.I.E.L.D. In front of Nick Fury, stood Natasha, Coulson and others. In Nick Fury's hand, he held a document. On the information, there are the words Avengers Plan. Some time ago, Thor's incident made me realize that our Earth is still facing many unknown threats. This plan is an important means for us to deal with extraterrestrial threats in the future. The information on suitable personnel currently collected has been consolidated and handed over to you, and you have also been investigated, so let us talk about it now. Quote. Coulson immediately said, Boss, Noah Allen is extremely dangerous. Several incidents in Hell's Kitchen have proved that he is a ruthless character. Although the inspection results show that Noah Allen's danger is controllable, I still believe that he should not be exposed to the Avengers' plan. Quote. As a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. who had been in contact with Noah for a long time, he gave his own evaluation. On the side, Natasha also said, Tony Stark is frivolous and unsteady, and he doesn't have any suitable adjectives other than arms dealer. Even though he doesn't sell arms now, he is a born arms dealer. Quote. The implication is obviously denying Tony Stark. Nick Fury closed his eyes. Both of them have their own shortcomings, but they also have their own advantages. As people with high IQs, the two have their own advantages in biotechnology and military technology. If they can be absorbed, the benefits to the Avengers plan are self-evident. After thinking about it, Nick Fury said slowly, Noah Allen is ruled out first. As for Tony Stark, I believe he will become a hero. Don't worry about his problem. I will go in person. He thought of the information he had hidden for a long time. According to intelligence, Tony Stark has been drinking chlorophyll juice recently. That stuff doesn't taste like much. Before contacting the previous information, apparently Tony Stark was aware of his palladium poisoning situation. This time is the best time to tell him. Nick Fury has peace of mind and thinks he is in perfect control of everything. Then he looked at Coulson and said, Here, by the way, recently we dug up a military plane from World War II, and we also found something that you must be very interested in. Do you want to go and have a look? Coulson said without interest, Director, you know me. I only have a little personal hobby of collecting Captain's surroundings. Nick Fury said with interest, What if we dug up Captain America? What? Coulson was instantly excited. Nick Fury continued. We found Captain America, and the Captain's condition seems to be good. Would you like to go and have a look? I knew it, I knew the Captain must be alive. Director, please send me there. Quote. At night, Tony Stark has been in the lab all day. Since accepting his father's legacy, Future City Plan. He has more and more research plans every day. In particular, the new elements proposed by his father made him see the possibility of a new type of clean energy micro-reactor. After working overtime during this period, he has successfully synthesized new elements and used them in the new reactor. It can be said that he has now completely lifted the threat of slow death. This put him in a good mood recently. But at the same time, the news that his father had participated in the establishment of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury knew about the Future City Plan also kept him from letting go. His father's thoughts, when he received the inheritance, he had already understood everything. But he didn't know what S.H.I.E.L.D. wanted to do, and it didn't feel good at all to be calculated. He has always been the only one who plots against others. When will it be others' turn to plot against him? Opening the door, Tony Stark called Jarvis to turn on the light, but there was no response. He frowned and walked into the living room. The scene in front of him almost made him jump up. Holy shit! In the very center of the living room, there was a stool with a one-eyed bald man sitting on it. An outsider suddenly appeared in the family, and Tony Stark was almost scared to death. He has many enemies, and outsiders appear at this time. What else is possible other than enemies? Tony Stark. Someone called out his name. Tony Stark calmed down. Who are you? This is my home. No matter what your purpose is or how you got in, get the hell out of here right now. Quote. The person who came did not respond at all, and said lightly, I can be anywhere I want to be. It's not loud, but it sounds extremely pretentious. But when Tony Stark heard it, there was only anger in his eyes. This is his home. No ordinary place. No wonder Jarvis didn't respond, it seemed that he had been cut off. This is the disadvantage of technology. Without energy, no matter how good things are, they will become waste. Without waiting for Tony Stark's reaction, the visitor continued. I'm Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Hearing this name, Tony Stark instantly calmed down. Sure enough, It came. He was still wondering if Noah was lying to him. After all, although it is true that Noah saved him, he is not an innocent child. It is impossible to believe Noah's words so easily. But when Nick Fury appeared at his home, he knew that there was nothing wrong with what Noah said, at least most of them were okay. Recently, although he has solved the problem of palladium poisoning, in order to verify Noah's words, he has been drinking chlorophyll juice. Counting the time, if there are really people from S.H.I.E.L.D. beside me, the news should have been reported. Originally, he thought that the people from S.H.I.E.L.D. would at least talk to him openly. But what is the meaning of this way now? Threat. In the dark, Tony Stark's unhappy face was not seen by Nick Fury. But Nick Fury also knows that Tony Stark may not be happy now. But it doesn't matter. When he said the plan, Tony Stark would naturally agree with him. And this way of entering the door by yourself, it's just his habit. He has long been used to giving invisible deterrence to the target. This is a very useful routine. He has used this method for decades and it has always been very effective. It's just a pity that he underestimated Tony Stark's arrogance, and he didn't expect that Tony Stark had solved the problem of palladium poisoning. His cards are no longer valid. He just said to himself, I think you already know that the thing on your chest not only prolongs your life, but also makes you commit suicide slowly. So what? Tony Stark has made no secret of his distaste for Nick Fury. He's not one to hide. What if I can help you solve the problem of palladium poisoning? Nick Fury continued to speak. The voice is unhurried, everything is under control. Tony Stark chuckled. Are you talking about the future city plan? His words directly blocked Nick Fury's next words. Nick Fury's one eye widened. How did you know about this plan? This is different from what he imagined. That has nothing to do with you. If you just talk about this matter, I can tell you, you can get out. This is my residence. Jarvis, activate special emergency plans. Quote. Exclaimed Tony Stark. The next moment, the lights came back on. How could he not think of such a simple problem as the power supply? The special emergency plan has been activated, the target has been locked, whether to deal with it. Jarvis's voice sounded dispassionate. At the same time, in some corners, several tubular objects had already appeared at some unknown time. This situation caused a cold sweat to break out on Nick Fury's forehead. He actually sat under the gun all the time. Tony Stark didn't respond to Jarvis' question, but just looked coldly at Nick Fury in front of him. Although things were a little out of control, Nick Fury was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. after all. He immediately realized that he pulled up his collar and said in a low voice, Don't move yet. Apparently he didn't really come here alone. Tony Stark is no rookie to bully. So outside, he ambushed a whole squad of elite S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, even equipped with 2 prototype tyrants. Tony Stark also said, continue to keep the lock on, and at the same time scan the armed forces within 200 meters around, and kill them after the warning fails. Clear, Jarvis responded, and then heard a clicking sound. Apparently the residential defense system is in full swing. Nick Fury hesitated for a moment, then said helplessly to the caller. Back to 200 meters. He can't fall out with Tony Stark. Even if there is no future city plan, as a bargaining chip, Tony Stark is also the object he wants to fight for. Moreover, it is impossible for him to deal with a capital at will. Not even if they are S.H.I.E.L.D. This will arouse the resistance of the entire American capital force. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. belongs to the United Nations, it is undeniable that they are in the United States, which is their base camp, and they need the support of capital forces. After doing all this, Nick Fury put away the expressions he had mastered before. Now that the matter is out of his control, there is only one way to talk. Tony Stark, do you know that there are a lot of unknown crises in this world? And these crises are still intensifying. The Fantastic Four you should know, but they're just the beginning. A few years ago, the military discovered a green giant that was extremely destructive. Also, just a few days ago, in a small town in New Mexico, we found a hammer. That hammer is called Thor's hammer. Quote, seeing the astonished expression that Tony Stark finally showed. The corner of Nick Fury's mouth curled up. He knew that Tony Stark was already interested. Even without the bargaining chip of future city plan. But based on his understanding of Tony Stark, he is still confident that he can handle him to death. The expression on Nick Fury's face remained unchanged, and he continued. That's right, it's the Thor's hammer you imagined. In fact, we have also met its owner, the legendary Thor. But I prefer to call them aliens. At that time, the Thor enemy sent by Asgard attacked, and the two sides set off a big battle. The aftermath of the battle directly destroyed the town. And this is only part of it. Even on Earth, there are still monsters from the Han River in the previous news, unknown behemoths, and even life that appeared underground. In response to the increasing number of unknown threats, I proposed a plan called the Avenger Plan. This program is dedicated to studying and defending against various threats from the interior of the Earth and the universe. And you, Tony Stark, as the world's top smart guy, the Avengers need you. Quote. In Nick Fury's view, he has said that the Avengers need you, and Tony Stark will definitely agree. This is his decades of control over human nature. Especially an arrogant person like Tony Stark, he couldn't be easier to deal with. But he was disappointed. Tony Stark didn't rush to answer. It just flickered a few times. Sorry, I don't like your Avengers, and I don't like you S.H.I.E.L.D. So please leave now. Surprise appeared on Nick Fury's face. Tony, I'm afraid you still. Tony Stark has already exclaimed. Jarvis, prepare to implement the emergency plan procedures. Nick Fury's face changed back and forth a few times. Tony, you better think again, the Avengers are the only way to deal with this. After thinking it over, tell Natasha and ask her to tell me. Quote. He walked directly to the window behind him, and then made a vertical leap, disappearing into the night. Seeing this, Tony Stark's face turned ashen. The woman I slept with was actually a spy of S.H.I.E.L.D. After venting for a while, his face became serious. Don't look at the refusal simply. But as he became Iron Man longer and longer, he has gradually begun to feel what a sense of responsibility is. He really doesn't know about Asgard and Thor. But the big green man, and the monster in the Han River, these are all news that he already knows. The world is indeed facing some dangers. In other words, some crises that have not been exposed in the past are constantly emerging. In the face of these crises, he must act. It's just that even he has to admit that if it's really like what Nick Fury said, then his strength alone is indeed not enough. He didn't have many friends, so he couldn't find anyone to talk to at this time. Tony Stark struggled for a long time, came to the laboratory, put on his battle suit, and then soared into the sky. Outside the villa, Nick Fury has not left. Seeing Tony Stark leave, he immediately asked, "Where's Tony Stark?" The tracking agent observed the route for a while, and then said with a strange expression. Looking at the flight path, it seems to be Hell's Kitchen. Nick Fury frowned. Where did he go and what did he do? Could it be Noah Allen? This guess made his face look ugly. Although Noah Allen is also on his list of considerations, his priority is very low. That's why he agreed directly after Coulson objected. Now what is Tony Stark going to Noah Allen for? With puzzlement, Nick Fury led people to close the team. Naturally, there is more than one Tony Stark on his list. This time I just came here to test it out. Now it seems that it is unlikely that Tony Stark will join. If so, then he has to contact other people in advance. On the other side, Tony Stark was wearing a battle suit, spraying flames and landing at the door of Noah's house. There was a lot of movement in the battle suit, and there were systematically manufactured biological weapons guarding the surroundings, so Noah naturally discovered it early. Before Tony Stark could knock on the door, Noah came out. It's late at night, you're not sleeping at home, what are you doing here? After a busy day, he was so tired that he wanted to fall asleep. Seeing Tony Stark coming over, he was naturally not in a good mood. Tony Stark didn't open his mouth to ridicule, but his face was full of thoughts. Seeing this situation, Noah yawned and said helplessly, "Come in," said to make room for Tony Stark. The two entered the house. Noah took out a bottle of wine, poured it for Tony Stark, and poured himself another glass. "Tell me, what's wrong with you, are you stimulated?" Tony Stark drank the wine in the glass in one gulp, then poured another glass. Then he opened his mouth and said, "Noah, do you know that this world is not as simple as we imagined?" Noah rolled his eyes. "I know more than you think. But I welcome beautiful women to stay here, but you are not welcome." Quote. Just finished speaking, Noah reacted, and asked with burning eyes, Has Nick Fury approached you? How do you know? Tony Stark let out a cry. Then he reacted and smiled wryly. It seems that you really don't know much. To be honest, I'm a bit lost right now. Nick Fury explained the crisis of the world to me. He said that there are not only monsters in this world, but also aliens. Even Thor, the god of thunder in myths and legends, is an alien. And it also appeared in New Mexico some time ago. Thor and his enemies fought and directly destroyed a small town, but humans had no way to resist. Quote. Noah listened quietly, thoughtful from time to time. It turns out that the plot of Thor's first movie has already happened. In this way, the US team should almost appear. Tony Stark continued. This world has changed beyond my imagination, and for a while, I didn't know what to do. Nick Fury hopes that I can join his Avengers program created in response to these crises. You say, should I join? Quote. Looking at the dazed look in Tony Stark's eyes, Noah complained shamelessly. The purpose of your coming is for this. After being complained by Noah many times, Tony Stark finally became angry and roared loudly. Isn't this serious? Gods in myth, unknown monsters, these are enough to make anyone collapse. Quote. Noah took a sip of wine, and he could actually understand Tony Stark's thoughts. You know, the current situation is much more complicated than the original. Dazed is also normal. Even he himself, isn't he worried about being wiped out by GUE because he came from a wrong path? It almost drove him crazy for so many years. It was only after going through that great war that he dared to be sure that as long as he didn't do anything to destroy the Earth, GUE shouldn't care about it. Only then did he relax. The current Tony Stark is actually in the same state as he was at the time. So he thought about it, and said, I know all the things you said, and what I know is definitely much more detailed than you. The enemies you mentioned are only at this stage, and we are indeed powerless. Your Mark series won't work, and neither will my Tyrant plan. But this is no reason for your decadence. I can't interfere with your decision regarding SHIELD's Avengers program. But personally, I would never consider it. S.H.I.E.L.D. is an official organization, whether you like it or not, regardless of what S.H.I.E.L.D. promises. The establishment of the Avengers will inevitably be involved in politics, and even become a weapon for others. Of course, I can't influence your decision. However, regarding the question you mentioned, I actually have a plan, and I haven't told anyone about it yet. The name of this plan is the Science and Technology Arc Project. Quote. Noah spoke slowly. This is something he has considered for a long time. He is also a human being, and it is impossible to watch something happen to the Earth. But he didn't want to make a wedding dress for someone else. Since the Avengers are unreliable, he will set up an organization dominated by himself. As long as the organization is established and capitalized on the system and foresight, he is sure to firmly control the organization's right to speak. His life and death do not need to be controlled by others. The Science and Technology Arc Project is the product of his consideration under this situation. Technology Arc. Tony Stark's eyes lit up when he heard the name. Noah narrowed his eyes and explained. In my opinion, no official organization can be trusted, but the existence of a world crisis is inevitable. So we must have the power to resist, but rather than giving power to others, I would rather choose to hold the power in my own hands. The Science and Technology Arc Project was born based on this idea. Do you think you already know the reality of this world? Quote. Noah looked at Tony Stark and continued. Actually, the world is far more complicated than you know now. Do you think the god of Asgard is the biggest threat to the Earth? No, in fact, apart from the crises you know, there are even more terrifying dimensional crises. In this world, there are not only Asgardian gods, but also hell, demons, and even the existence of God and Lucifer may not be false. It's just that all of this has been firmly kept out of the Earth, so ordinary people don't know it at all. What I want to do is to unite some trustworthy top technology giants for resource sharing, crisis support, etc., to form a close secret alliance, so as to expand our strength in the field of technology. Ultimately achieve the purpose of eliminating threats. Asgard is our ally, but what I want to say is, the fate of human beings should not be decided by others, but only in their own hands. Quote. After hearing Noah finish his plan, Tony Stark became excited. Compared with the Avengers project, Noah's Technology Ark project is exactly what he wants. Technology Ark project. Sounds good. You were right that we all need our own defenses whether we are protected or not. Quote. Tony Stark suddenly cheered up. He was just hit by the sudden knowledge of a large number of unknown events before. But this blow did not last long. Especially after hearing about Noah's Technology Ark plan, he had a direct goal of action. He is one of the smartest people on Earth, this sentence is not a joke. Noah nodded. In fact, if the timeline continues, similar organizations may appear in this world. And the name of that organization will be called the Illuminati. But unfortunately, as far as he knew, the Illumination Society hardly played any positive role in resolving the incident. Because the members of the Illuminati are too smart, and they are so smart that they are conceited. This kind of conceit often makes them have the opposite effect in the event. But this time, he established the Technology Ark plan in advance. Most of the superheroes of this era are just starting out, and they haven't even appeared yet. Their personal hero concept has not yet been established. Ideas are not something that can be decided by wisdom alone. Most importantly, it needs experience to decide. As long as he grasps it well, he can rely on his own advantages to gain the trust of the members, and ultimately lead the direction of action of the Technology Ark. Under the cover of the Technological Ark, everything about him can be perfectly hidden. This is his real purpose. He doesn't want to be the king of the earth, even if he has this strength. Because the king is too lonely. How can life be as happy as it is now? Like teasing Tony Stark from time to time. But he doesn't mind, he has the strength to resist any threat. Technology Ark is the way for him to achieve this goal. He even hopes that the name of this project can be called Noah's Ark Project. It's a pity, it's too explicit. Do you have a detailed plan? Tony Stark made a simple calculation in his mind, and then asked. Noah nodded naturally, and then said, the invitees to the Science and Technology Ark project are all top technology-rich people like you and me, or scientific research geniuses, and the number does not need to be too many. Currently, I have 3 preliminary candidates. One is Norman Osborn from Osborn Industries, the other is Reed Richards from Fantastic Four, and Mr. Hank Pym from Pym Technologies. Quote. Hearing Noah's 3 candidates, Tony Stark frowned. Norman Osborn. Although Tony Stark just said the name, Noah has seen his dissatisfaction. Sure enough, the next moment, Tony Stark said, Norman Osborn is just a pure businessman, what qualifications does he have to join this plan? In terms of intelligence, he is not even as good as a hamster. In terms of financial resources, can he compare with Stark? I have no problem with the latter too. Quote. Hearing what Tony Stark said, Noah secretly said it was a pity. Among the 2 geniuses, joined Norman Osborn, which naturally has some of his little thoughts. Norman Osborn, in his opinion, could be wooed. And regarding the genetic disease of the Osborn family, Noah thought he was about to overcome it. At that time, he will naturally have the full support of Norman Osborn. This is his natural boost. But he also knew that a genius like Tony Stark would probably not accept a pure businessman to sit with them. Noah's question now is just a test. Knowledge cannot be violated. Noah did not continue to say, just opened the mouth and said. The current plan is just a prototype. Although the world has begun to experience a crisis, the conditions are not yet ripe. As long as you know about this matter, don't spread it out yet, and we will invite others to join when the conditions are ripe. Quote. Tony Stark nodded. Even so, necessary preparations still need to be made. But, what dimensions are you talking about? Also, are God and Lucifer real? Quote. After solving the problem, he couldn't help but become curious. Although he has no faith, the existence of such things as God and the devil is still too outrageous. Noah opened his mouth and explained. The concept of dimension refers to other dimensions. In the endless dimensions, there are some powerful beings known as dimension lords. According to my guess, God is one of the dimensional lords, at least hell is real. Among them, some strong ones even have the ability to destroy the earth. Quote. Destroy the earth. Tony Stark's pupils shrank, this kind of enemy put too much pressure on him. Then I heard Noah continue to say, of course, this is not our main enemy at the moment. The Earth also has corresponding guardians, and Odin, the god king of Asgard, is actually an ally of our Earth. Now we need to deal with other, small, threats. Of course, no matter how powerful an existence is, it may not be able to protect us all the time, so we need to grow up quickly, so as not to catch us by surprise when the real enemy enters. Quote. Tony Stark nodded silently after listening. Even he, after hearing so much, couldn't accept it for a while. Noah sipped the wine, quietly waiting for Tony Stark to digest the information. Of course he knew that the impact of this incident was too great. But if it wasn't for such a big impact, how could it be possible to shock Tony Stark, a genius who is so arrogant to the extreme? Noah smiled slightly. Everything is under control. But he was right. It's too far to think about that now. Not to mention outside the Earth, he doesn't even have the slightest idea of what's going on inside the Earth. Technology Arc, after all, is just a plan. It will take time to be truly established. It takes time for the target members to feel a sense of crisis, and it also needs his own growth. With the help of the system, he is confident that the speed of development will surpass others, at least until he grows to the point where other members cannot ignore it. Otherwise, without enough strength, even if he has the advantage of foresight, why should he lead the smartest and most conceited people on Earth? Time, everything takes time. I briefly discussed the Technology Arc project with Tony Stark, and watched Tony Stark soaring into the sky with excitement. Noah couldn't help thinking, this brother won't be really limp by him. This is not what he wants. The result of today's conversation is good. It seems that Tony Stark is stable here. Norman Osborn is not going to give up just yet. In an organization, the right to speak is very important. Even Norman Osborn's right to speak is destined not to be too high. But if you pull it in, it will definitely be a great help. It's just that this matter still needs to be planned slowly so that Tony Stark cannot resist it. The most important thing is that the genetic disease of the Osborn family must be solved first. If it cannot be solved, everything is fake. Thinking about all this, Noah let out a long sigh. Without strength, no matter how much you think about it, it is empty. Shield, Nick Fury's black face, hides his heart deeply, which is a natural protective layer. Noah Allen has already had a great influence on Tony Stark, and in this case, the first person Tony Stark looked for was actually him. The combination of these two geniuses is not a good thing. With crises intensifying around the world, it appears the formation of the Avengers must be hastened. Quote. Just as I was thinking, someone came in. Nick Fury stood up. Dr. Eric, you are finally here. You've been invited here to take part in a top-secret study. Quote. Dr. Eric nodded. He had known the news for a long time. Then Nick Fury took Dr. Eric to a base by plane. The base of S.H.I.E.L.D. is huge, and Dr. Eric was excited when he saw it. The two walked into the depths of the base all the way, and finally arrived near a huge platform. Thissa. Dr. Eric had a look of shock on his face. In front of his eyes was a huge frozen robot. Under the huge robot, hundreds of researchers were making various calculations. Nick Fury noticed his gaze and said, "This is what we found near where Captain America was found. According to speculation, the frozen time is far longer than the Captain's frozen time. And we found that this robot seems to be alive." Quote. After a moment of hesitation, Nick Fury still used the word alive. The expression on Dr. Eric's face became more and more surprised. Did S.H.I.E.L.D. come to me just to study this robot? Nick Fury shook his head. No, I hope that what you are studying is still deeper. With that said, Nick Fury has moved on. Dr. Eric heard the words and quickly followed. But before leaving, he took a few more glances. When he came, he had already met the captain, so he was not surprised. But the existence of this robot was beyond his imagination. In that era, normally speaking, it was impossible for robots to exist. And the thing he was asked to study, its location, was actually deeper than this robot. Dr. Eric's face became more and more excited. He had a hunch that he might be involved in some important secret. After Dr. Eric also followed, a tall and thin man looked at the robot's expression in a position they couldn't see, and was a little surprised, and then continued to follow. After a series of inspections, the two came to a huge airtight room. In the center of the room, there is a box. Nick Fury said, "This is one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s greatest secrets, the cosmic Rubik's Cube. It contains amazing energy beyond our comprehension, and it is also a terrible weapon. Facing the increasingly serious crisis, human beings need their own defense force. So doctor, I need you to study the Rubik's Cube as soon as possible, so that we can gain the ability to fight against those threats. Quote. Dr. Eric took a deep breath and realized his responsibility. At the same time, there was fanaticism in his eyes. For him, this was a very rare opportunity. After sending Dr. Eric to the Rubik's Cube, Nick Fury returned to the giant robot again. Although he still can't understand the specific structure of this robot, the research progress is not very satisfactory. But he still instinctively felt that this thing was very dangerous. However, there are only some dangers, and it is impossible for him to give up research. On the contrary, he believes that only by thoroughly studying these dangers can the Earth gain stronger crisis resistance. He even has the heart to go straight to unfreezing the robot. This is the base of S.H.I.E.L.D., with the most complete protection measures in the entire world. He didn't believe that a mere robot could cause any big trouble in the base of S.H.I.E.L.D. But after hesitating for a while, he still chose to give up. The situation is fairly stable now, so there is no need to worry. If this robot causes problems in other research facilities in the base, then the loss outweighs the gain. It's just that he didn't realize from the beginning to the end that all this was clearly seen by an outsider. Tony Stark came back from Noah's house and immediately called for Jarvis. Jarvis, set up the project immediately. The project priority is established as the highest priority. Project name, Science and Technology Arc Project. Yes, after the project was approved, Tony Stark immediately devoted himself to research. Although Noah said that the technological arc has not yet reached the stage of launching immediately. But he still felt prepared. Especially the crises Noah described, like a sword of Damocles, made him feel uneasy. Even if the crises that are enough to destroy the Earth cannot be resolved at this stage. At the very least, a solution to the crisis on Earth must be established. After thinking for a while, Tony Stark said again. Jarvis, under the Technology Arc Project, set up a sub-project named Legion Project. There is only one Mark series, which can no longer give him a sense of security. So, he wants to create an Iron Legion. If one Iron Man can't solve a problem, let a group of Iron Men do it. Noah naturally didn't know that under his stimulation, Tony Stark had already begun to prepare to create the Iron Legion. Otherwise, I am afraid that I will have more sympathy for Ivan Vanki. Without external stimulation, Tony Stark's Mark series was updated so quickly. Now that there is stimulation, Tony Stark's potential may be even more stimulated. At this time, Noah is already preparing to strengthen the strategic security forces. Under the rapid expansion of Umbrella's strategic security force, the number has reached hundreds of people. But the actual combat power is very limited. Facing ordinary enemies does not require them to take action, but facing special enemies, they cannot play a corresponding role. It is imperative to strengthen this important defense force of Umbrella. After summoning everyone to the Umbrella outskirts base, Noah said, Everyone, the Umbrella Strategic Security Defense Force has been established for some time. Although you haven't done much actual combat, you can see your ability to face crises in the training. To be honest, I am very dissatisfied. Quote, hearing Noah's words, everyone was angry. Even if Noah is their boss, none of them is an elite from the special forces. A person who might not even know how to fight dares to question their combat effectiveness. Noah looked at everyone, his expression unchanged. He ignored even Frank's look. The strongest among ordinary people. For him, it doesn't make any sense. After a moment of silence, Frank stood up. He also had to stand up. The players below were drawn in one by him. As Umbrella's system becomes larger and larger, there will naturally be diversions in the armed forces. These are all his direct powers, so it is natural to stand up and defend them at this time. He stood up and said to Noah, Boss, the members of Umbrella's strategic security force are all recruited by me, and each of them is a soldier who has truly seen blood. In terms of loyalty and combat effectiveness, I can guarantee that the members inside will have no problems. Quote. Noah nodded. Then he glanced around, facing everyone's eyes, facing everyone, and said loudly, I have not questioned any of your fighting abilities. But that's the truth. Even you, Frank. Quote, after hearing his name being mentioned, Frank's body tensed up instantly. Not tense, but anger building up. The members here are all combat elites, but he, Frank Custer, dares to say that in this world, he is one of the top combat experts. Even with the elites he personally recruited, he is confident that he can easily wipe out a team. Noah naturally saw the strong dissatisfaction in his eyes, and said directly to Frank, "Come here, let me prove it to you." Frank was taken aback. He did know that the boss had learned fighting skills and experienced some battles. But the boss should know his strength, so why would he say such a thing? He frowned and was about to speak when Noah continued, "Come on, in front of me, you have no ability to resist at this time." Frank narrowed his eyes slightly. He is angry. No announcement, no reminder. Those are not actions that should be in battle, and he doesn't know how to compare. The next moment, he suddenly attacked Noah. The target pointed directly at Noah's neck. This is the deadliest place for a person. And relying on his strength, if this strike is real, Noah will undoubtedly die. Noah's face remained unchanged. In his dynamic vision, Frank's speed is not much faster than ants, and he can easily see through. This is the change brought about by the transformation of the black light virus. And that's just the part of him that's revealed. In fact, after the transformation of the black light virus, coupled with his targeted cultivation, and through systematic research and cultivation optimization, some defects of the black light virus have been eliminated. All of this makes his fighting ability beyond everyone's imagination. In front of him, Frank is just an ordinary person, without any room for display. This is not a gap in combat ability. It's the gap in dimensions. Noah easily avoided Frank's blow, and then made a backhand shot on Frank's elbow. With a click, Frank felt a light snap of his elbow. Countless combat experience told him that his elbow joint was dislocated. After making a judgment in his heart, Frank's face still did not change, but he used the other hand to attack again. But how could Noah give him this chance? Just in an instant, Noah's speed increased several times, directly bringing Frank down. Seeing this scene, everyone's angry expressions disappeared instantly. Who is Frank? Even if they weren't recruited by Frank himself, they were all trained by Frank when they joined Umbrella. And Frank's first lesson gave them a clean failure. No one could have imagined that such a strong Frank would be knocked down by one move. Especially the speed and explosive power of the boss just now, it doesn't seem like the actions that humans can make. All of them, not to mention Frank, who was brought down. At this time, Frank only felt that his brain was a mess, and he couldn't accept it at all. Noah said directly, "This is the gap. In front of ordinary people, you are indeed fighting elites, but in front of people like me, you are no different from ordinary people. Such an umbrella strategic security force cannot be called an elite. And now, there is a chance to become stronger. Let you, like me, have strength, speed, and explosive power far beyond ordinary people. But this method is extremely dangerous. Everyone is free to choose, and those who successfully join will enter the Umbrella Special Emergency Response Team. Annual salary, $1 million. Quote, in the last sentence, Noah roared very loudly. He knew that in front of these fighters, besides the attractiveness of becoming stronger, money was more important. And $1 million annual salary is definitely a very exaggerated figure. But only in this way can more people be attracted to join. As soon as the voice fell, someone stood up immediately. "Boss, I'm applying to join the Umbrella Strategic Special Emergency Force." As the first person joins. Soon, more than a third were clamoring to join. Frank looked at him with complicated eyes. He understood what the boss meant. But that's not what he thinks. From the annual salary of $1 million, it can be seen how dangerous the tasks performed by this army will be. But he couldn't stop it. Everyone has the right to choose. The first people to stand up are basically people without family burdens. So he couldn't stop it. Noah showed a smile on his face, then glanced at the worried Frank, and then continued to say loudly. However, the strengthening process, as long as there is enough self-control ability, is actually not as dangerous as imagined. The entire strengthening process takes 3 months and is divided into 9 times, which can be terminated at any time. As long as you know where your limit is, theoretically, there will be no danger to your life. Quote, hearing Noah's explanation, many people's hearts moved. Immediately, Many people stood up. Even Frank's eyes had an obvious movement. As a security director, he naturally didn't want to be surpassed. The enhanced serum Noah mentioned was extracted by Noah based on the T-virus. The danger of the T-virus is beyond doubt. It's just that Noah separated it. The serum that was originally injected once was divided into 9 injections. According to the results of the system deduction, as long as they are physically fit, they should be able to withstand at least 1 injection. But the further back, the higher the danger. 1 injection is nothing, but if it can be injected more than 5 times, it can approach the limit of the human body and reach level 3. If it can withstand 9 injections, it will have a level 4 superhuman quality. That is the ideal member in his mind. Of course, he also knows that it is not realistic to talk about those now. When Noah was busy screening outstanding members, Bruce Banner hesitated again and again, and finally decided to take the risk of meeting Mr. Lan. Mr. Lan knew his situation very well. Only by communicating with Mr. Lan can he better solve Hulk's problem. Now his situation is very dangerous, there is no way to wait any longer. After contacting Mr. Lan on the phone, Bruce Banner, who had just left New York, sneaked back to New York again. It just didn't take long. General Ross received the message. At this time, New York is already a net of heaven and earth. Chapter 71. Late at night in New York, the lights are brilliant. Light up the world like daylight. Bruce Banner walked cautiously around the corner of the city. He wasn't sure if he had been spotted. The calmer the surroundings seemed, the more disturbed he felt. Fortunately, his training to control Hulk was not in vain, and his heartbeat remained calm. But before going to Mr. Lan, he hesitated, and walked towards the house of his girlfriend Betty Ross. Even though it was dangerous, he still wanted to see Betty again. Because every time, he was not sure if he would have a chance to come back. Dodging the cameras all the way, Bruce Banner came to Betty's door. After confirming the surrounding environment, he knocked on Betty's door. But he didn't know that in a command vehicle in the distance, General Ross saw the scene of the two making out, and almost didn't order the attack directly. Only this time, he didn't want to repeat his previous mistakes. He wants to take down Bruce Banner with absolute certainty, or in other words, Hulk. At the same time, he also wanted to know what the purpose of Bruce Banner's coming here was. He thought about Bruce Banner coming back, but he never understood the reason. He felt that this reason might be very important. And just like that, General Ross stares at the camera. The two made out for a while and appeared to have an argument, but after a brief argument, the two left together. With a dangerous gleam in General Ross's eyes, he gave the order immediately. Follow up. The Hulk striker team is all assembled, all the tyrants are in place, and prepare for the fighting wolf to block and follow. This time, I want to be foolproof. In an instant, a huge armed force moved into action. Bruce Banner and Betty Ross didn't even know that there was a huge armed force behind them. Go to the location given by Dr. Lan to Banner. After confirming the location, the two walked in quietly. In the mobile command vehicle, General Ross narrowed his eyes. Everyone is in place, secretly cordoned off the block, ready to arrest. He didn't want to make too much noise. That could easily arouse Bruce Banner's vigilance, and he needed time to arrange the manpower for arrest. But he didn't just let it go. Instead, let Bronsky lead the team for close monitoring to prevent the two from moving. After Banner and Betty went in, they saw Dr. Lan, and were immediately stunned by the scene in front of them. Dr. Lan turned the whole room into a laboratory to cultivate his cells and tissues. Seeing this scene, Bruce Banner turned into Hulk almost excitedly. Fortunately, he restrained the urge to transform in time, but kept warning Dr. Lan about the danger of his blood. Samuel Stern frowned and didn't take up the topic. Anyway, my name is Samuel Stern, and I've been looking forward to meeting you, Bruce Banner. In my opinion, you are simply a miracle in the history of biology. Quote. Bruce Banner was a little fidgety. He couldn't calm down when he saw the bottles and jars around him growing his cells. Dr. Stern, I must warn you again that this blood must be destroyed. You have no idea of the danger of this blood. Samuel Stern shrugged, and said indifferently, okay, since you said so. Although Bruce Banner looked at Samuel Stern's expression with some uneasiness, he could only reluctantly nod. Samuel Stern said excitedly, in fact, just after our last contact, I have made some new discoveries, you can take a look. As he spoke, Samuel Stern took out a petri dish, on which a drop of his blood was first dropped, and then some reagents were poured in. Bruce Banner leaned over to observe. After a while, his pupils shrank slightly, and he murmured in disbelief. The mutated cells disappeared. Samuel Stern laughed. Yes, I found a way to bring you back to normal. Betty also looked excited. The main obstacle before her and Bruce was Hulk. Both of them were about to give up, but now they finally have hope. Without any hesitation, Bruce Banner decided to inject. He can't wait to get back to the past. Lying on the test bench, Bruce Banner motioned for the two to tie him up. Before the two started to act, seeing a flash of green on Bruce Banner's face, his face was grim. The two were shocked. Bruce Banner immediately said, "Quick." Hulk sensed the danger, and he figured it out. Quote. The next moment, roar, Hulk's growl sounded. Outside the door, Bronski and the others who had been waiting quietly changed their expressions. Immediately Bronski kicked at the door. Inside, Bruce Banner and the Hulk are constantly fighting over bodies. Although there are Samuel Stern and Betty Ross, there is no way to limit Hulk's movements. Samuel Stern gritted his teeth, rushed over to pick up the serum, and stabbed it directly into the arm of Bruce Banner, who was about to mutate. Roar! Hulk roared angrily and broke free directly. The two broke out in cold sweat. Just when they thought they were going to die, Hulk suddenly disappeared, and Bruce Banner fainted weakly. At this moment, Bronski has led the team to rush in. The next moment, greed and madness appeared in his eyes. Outside, with Hulk's roar, General Ross nervously got everyone ready for battle. Originally, when the army entered the urban area, it attracted the attention of many people. The current situation made the reporters around who had rushed over even more excited. These reporters with a keen sense of smell knew very well that something big was going to happen. Sure enough, at the next moment, a terrifying giant monster jumped out. With its huge body and terrifying power, everything around it was blown away. He was so excited. He finally got the power he wanted. This is what he has been pursuing. Hulk, come out, get out. He was venting, growling. It has just gained strength and is eager to fight Hulk. He wants Hulk to know. He, Bronski, is the strongest one in the world. General Ross's face changed drastically. Don't understand what's going on though. But he knew that the monster in front of him had to be dealt with first. Everyone, attack freely. Fire with all your might and kill this monster. Quote. With one order, all kinds of light and heavy weapons, even tanks, began to attack. But what this got in exchange was only the intense anger of hatred. It roared violently and rushed towards a tank. With a bang, the tank was thrown into the air. This terrifying power made General Ross's hands tremble. Even the Hulk may not have such terrifying power. Let the Tyrant Squad push me up. Although he didn't want to touch the trump card prepared for Hulk, he couldn't care less now. Stark Industries, Tony Stark was lying comfortably on the sofa, and when he saw the urgent news that popped up on the TV, he sat up directly. Especially looking at that terrifying monster, his face was extremely solemn. Jarvis, how complete is my Iron Legion? The current completion rate is 73%, and the estimated completion time is 11 hours and 48 minutes. Cannot wait anymore. Tony Stark immediately gave up. Since the Iron Legion is still useless, it can only be dispatched by itself. That kind of monster doesn't know how much casualties it will cause. On the other side, Noah also noticed the news. After seeing the abomination, he narrowed his eyes. After waiting for so long, this battle is finally about to start. Hulk's blood, the blood of hatred, are rare good things for him. In this kind of battle, ordinary combat power can't be expected. After calling and explaining, the corners of Noah's mouth curled up, and he jumped up, turning into a black streamer and disappearing into the night. On the streets of New York, a full 6 tyrants are fighting against hatred. At this moment, the tyrant's fighting ability was brought into full play. But abominations are far more terrifying. Even these T-101s, which are stronger than the prototype, are quite weak when facing the abomination. The battle scene looks exaggerated, but it feels one-sided. Overhead, several news helicopters that are not afraid of death circled, constantly broadcasting the situation on the scene. Of course, from their point of view, maybe their position is safe. After all, they were at an altitude of tens of meters. No one can hurt them flying so high. No one can fight 6 tyrants and abominations. Therefore, the military's combat power also began to shrink its defense. On the other side, a team rushed into the room where Bruce Banner and Betty Ross were, and brought out the 2 who hadn't had time to escape. As for Samuel Stern, he was gone when they entered. After the 2 were brought out, they looked at all this in surprise. "It's that Bronski," Betty spoke in surprise. When the soldiers around heard it, they all looked over in astonishment. "Bronski, how can this be?" But when they just rushed in, they really didn't see Bronski's existence. As for the other soldiers, most of them were killed by that monster. The rest were also in a coma. At the same time, Bruce Banner also said weakly, "Those are the monsters that captured me before, there are so many." No one answered his words. Compared with Betty, he is just a prisoner. A group of soldiers brought the 2 of them to General Ross. Seeing General Ross's calm expression, Bruce Banner couldn't help saying, "Can't you see that your weapons are no match for Bronski at all?" General Ross looked at him and sneered. "He has been arraigned and understands the situation. I heard you can't become the Hulk anymore. It's an interesting result, but don't worry, we will dig hard and release that monster again." Quote. After finishing speaking, General Ross directly said coldly, "Take him back." After finishing speaking just now, he glanced at his daughter, hesitated for a moment, and added, "Take Betty away, this is a battlefield, not where she should stay." The war continues, but the battle situation has become more and more obvious. There were already 2 tyrants on the scene, torn apart by an angry abomination. The terrible roar seemed to be announcing its coming to the world. General Ross frowned. It seems that it is time to use the whole card. Now that Bruce Banner has been arrested and cannot transform, he doesn't need to be so cautious. Just as he was about to give an order, a stream of light flashed across the sky. Boom! Several explosions sounded. He hated and yelled in pain. Just wanted to counterattack, but was entangled by the tyrant. Only then did Tony Stark's voice sound. Where did this monster come from? This world is really becoming more and more dangerous. Quote. While speaking, Tony Stark had landed beside General Ross. General Ross frowned. As an iron-blooded war faction, he has always disdained Tony Stark, a playboy. The hate level is even higher than Bruce Banner. "Tony Stark, this is a battlefield, what are you doing here?" Hearing General Ross's words, Tony Stark's mask opened. "Perhaps you haven't heard of one of my titles, Iron Man. Coming here is naturally to solve this troublesome monster." Quote. Tony Stark looked at General Ross's expression not much better. As the top arms dealer, he had naturally met the Air Force general. His sense of General Ross was also extremely poor. While the 2 were talking, Abomination seized the opportunity and grabbed a tyrant. The terrifying force poured out towards the tyrant under his control. But in just a few seconds, the 3rd tyrant had already been killed by it. At this point, he was very excited. The fighting ability of these tyrants is not weak. Let him play very cool. It's a pity that there are less. Even if it has a lot of wounds on its body, Bronski doesn't care about it. This is a man's fight. It is also what he has always pursued. Stepping on the tyrant's body, he roared again. "Hulk, come out and fight me, and I will let everyone know that I am the most perfect fighter." The terrifying roar made the reporters on the helicopter turn pale. It's really terrible. Seeing this, Tony Stark had no intention of continuing to pay attention to General Ross. The reason why he landed here was just to say hello to the other party. On this kind of battlefield, if you don't report to the military first, you may be regarded as an enemy and beaten into a sieve. In fact, based on the contact experience of the 2 of them, he suspected that General Ross would definitely do this. If he hadn't heard Noah talk about the Technology Arc project not long ago, he would never have appeared at this time, and would just lie on the sofa and watch the show honestly. But now, since he is here, then he will never allow this monster to continue to wreak havoc in the city. Because he is Iron Man. Before General Ross could respond, Tony Stark flew towards the abomination. While flying, it shoots out the missiles on its shoulders. Boom! There were continuous explosions. Tony Stark is confident. Although he has closed the arms department, But his steel battle suit uses the most cutting-edge weapons. This one is enough for that monster. Watch the smoke from the explosion. Tony Stark passed by at a low altitude. He wanted to determine the situation of the target, and then bombed again to ensure that the matter was resolved. Just as he skimmed into the smoke, boom, a giant claw stretched out and grabbed his battle suit. With a sudden force, the siren of the steel suit began to sound rapidly. Tony Stark's pupils shrunk. How can it be? Suddenly caught. Tony Stark panicked. His combat experience was still lacking, but fortunately, superhuman wisdom calmed him down immediately. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed the tyrant's attacking movement, and he suddenly increased his thrust, deflecting the loathsome body. The next moment, AT-101's alloy battle axe slashed directly at the back of the abomination. Roar! With a cry of pain, the abomination let go, giving Tony Stark a chance to escape. But the abomination is also worthy of being able to fight the Hulk. Not only is the combat power terrifying, but the defensibility is also extremely strong. Although the axe tore him open, it was not enough to slow down his movement. Hate backhanded the approaching tyrant. In an instant, it was scrapped directly. Seeing this scene, Tony Stark, who had just escaped, was extremely shocked. If he had been slower just now, I am afraid that the end of the tyrant now will be his end. So close. While rejoicing in his heart, he couldn't help feeling a headache. The missiles equipped with the battle suit can't hurt this monster, so he is really helpless. At this moment, he had the idea of making targeted armor based on the performance of hatred. Unfortunately, he has no time. At least not now. General Ross behind was also furious. Press me on the Pursuer and the Emperor. Didn't Noah Allen say that his biological weapons are excellent? Let me see the actual combat performance of those enhanced tyrants. Quote. He just finished yelling. Noah's playful voice sounded. General Ross, you seem to be dissatisfied with these products of mine. When General Ross heard it, he looked in the direction of the sound and saw Noah Allen walking slowly. Although he was puzzled as to why he appeared there, General Ross still spoke dissatisfiedly. This is not the Hulk, and your proud products were torn to pieces like toys when facing Bronski. Noah's face remained unchanged. General Ross, you must have seen the fighting ability of this monster. Even if it is the real Hulk, it may not be his opponent. Although the T-101 is excellent, but in the face of this monster, if you want to win, you can only completely suppress it with numbers. But to be honest, you only got 6 T-101s out, which is way too few. After all, the T-101 is only a mass-produced work, and it is far from reaching this level of combat capability. Quote. T-101 is a level 4 biological weapon, and the strength of the abomination is at least at the level of level 5 close to level 6. Although the level is just a numerical value, when there is a level gap, you can only seek other help from the outside world. Either find a weakness, or get reinforcements. But obviously, changing the number 1 into the number 6 is far from achieving the effect of quantitative change producing qualitative change. With that said, Noah looked at Iron Man in the sky, then smiled and said, "Look at Stark, he can't help it." General Ross also looked over at Tony Stark. I saw sparks starting to appear in some parts of his handsome battle suit. Obviously the damage is not low. While there may have been a result of Tony Stark's carelessness, it is also a testament to how intractable the abomination is. There was a light click, and the recording and photo taking was completed. It seemed that he had noticed Noah's sight and movement, and the next moment, Iron Man joined the battle again. At this moment, the Chaser Tyrant and the Emperor Tyrant have begun to move. But in this kind of battle, it is obvious that the Emperor and Tyrant have the advantage. Because the Emperor and Tyrant are the real melee kings. Approaching the battlefield, the two tyrants activated their awakening form at the same time. In the awakened state, the ability of the Tyrant will be greatly enhanced. But the consequence is the lack of endurance. But in the face of this terrifying monster, there's no point in procrastinating. The powerful offensive ability in the awakened state is the best way to solve the battle. At this time, there were only 2 T-101s on the field that still maintained their combat power, but with the addition of the Pursuers and the Emperor, the overall strength of the Tyrant increased instead of falling. As the most terrifying Emperor and Tyrant, his power can almost stalemate with hatred for a short time. Noah narrowed his eyes slightly. Through the gap between the two sides, he has already judged the level of hatred. Level 6. This was the first time he saw a level 6 combat power attack. Although the Emperor and Tyrant can stand in a stalemate for a short time after awakening, the disadvantage is very obvious. This is true even for the Emperor Tyrant, not to mention other models. Boom. The terrorist attack and defense continued. The battle between the Abomination and the Tyrant looks pretty intense. The ground is full of rocks, and everything around it will be shattered as soon as it is touched. Even Tony Stark felt very powerless in the face of this situation. In the case that his strongest attack method is ineffective, he can only play a supporting role. At least when Chaser and Emperor are not involved, his auxiliary market is still somewhat useful. After all, the Tyrant's fighting style was somewhat rigid, but once the two joined in, they showed a high degree of cooperation. It actually made him feel like he couldn't get his hands on it. Seeing Noah standing beside General Ross, he flew over and took off his mask. Just as he was about to speak, Noah took out the commemorative photo he just took. Tony Stark's face darkened. Jarvis, invade, destroy that photo for me. In fact, his current state may have been seen by countless people following the live broadcast. But seeing the close-up that Noah was holding, he was just very upset. Noah chuckled lightly. Don't forget, my Red Queen was also developed by you. Tony Stark cursed under his breath. This kind of deflated feeling made him quite uncomfortable. Noah smiled. It seems that your battlesuit is really not good, let's see the performance of my Tyrant. Tony Stark pouted. After my Iron Legion comes out, you will understand what is strong. He felt a little suffocated. His Iron Legion has fully integrated the new element reactor and the new concept of battlesuit technology. In other words, his battlesuit will be eliminated after at most 10 hours. It's just that this battle came too suddenly. He hasn't had time to prepare anything yet, otherwise, he would never be so powerless. Noah didn't really mean to mock him either. The best thing about technology is that it can grow infinitely. But the most troublesome part is also here: research takes time. What Tony Stark lacks now is time. And he's the same as Tony Stark. Even though he has an auxiliary system, he is still a researcher after all. So, he also needs time. As a researcher, you can't be a coward. You can only rely on hard work, step by step, to improve your technology, and finally turn it into your own strength. At this moment, boom, there was a loud noise. Bruce Banner landed not far from the battlefield. Noah's face condensed slightly. It seems that my own appearance still hasn't changed the result. The Hulk is coming. Roar. With a violent growl, the Hulk stood up. Hulk's eyes are always angry. But now he is obviously not in a state of real anger. It's just that Hulk at this moment, anger is his essence. Hulk gasped and looked around. I saw General Ross, and I saw Noah and the others. When he saw General Ross, the anger in his eyes grew stronger. He still remembered that it was this person who always wanted to hurt him. Just when he was about to kill General Ross, the loathing suddenly let out a wild laugh. Hulk, you're finally out. While speaking, he exploded violently. Even the Emperor and Tyrant were thrown away. In his eyes, only Hulk. Even emperors and tyrants have never been taken seriously by him. It can even be said that Hulk is his obsession. Of course, the Tyrant didn't intend to let him retreat just like that. But at this moment, General Ross ordered, "Don't stop Bronski, let him fight Hulk." Following his order, several tyrants immediately retreated and made way for them. Tony Stark frowned, feeling something was wrong, but he didn't understand the situation, so he didn't say anything. Noah raised his eyebrows. This is indeed a very good choice. It's a pity, I'm afraid the result will only increase Hulk's anger. Seeing the tyrants get out of the way, Bronski let out a grin. Come on, Hulk, I will beat you. Quote, dark yellow ferocious body, tall and terrifying body. No one doubted Bronski's confidence. Hulk also growled at Bronski. Although he didn't speak, Hulk is not a good temper. The two terrifying guys rushed towards each other in the attitude of a heavy tank. Boom. As soon as the body hit, the terrifying power directly set off a wave of air. The asphalt road under their feet was shattered. Roar. Hulk. Both Bronski and Hulk were venting their anger and dissatisfaction. Boom. Boom. Every punch is accompanied by terrifying destructive power. For a while, the two sides fell into a stalemate. Obviously, if there is no external force, this battle may not be able to end for a while. Tony Stark looked at the battle in front of him, his face became more dignified, and he glanced at the calm Noah thoughtfully. Looking at Noah's appearance, it is obvious that the battle between the two did not surprise him. Isn't this kind of battle dangerous enough? He didn't know where Noah's information came from. But the more he thought about it, the heavier his heart became. Armor against such bulk must be developed ASAP. Tony Stark thought to himself. Jarvis, record all the data of the two, and deduce the response model as soon as possible. As time goes on, the attention of the event increases. On a news plane, reporters are constantly saying, "Everyone, please look at the situation at the scene." Now the actions of the two giant monsters have reached a fever pitch. According to our intelligence, the Green Giant has been hunted down by the military many times, named Hulk. But that yellow guy, no one knows what's going on. Ah, look, my God, that yellow monster directly lifted a car and threw it at Hulk. And Hulk actually shot the car flying. What a terrible force. God, it's unbelievable. I still can't believe it. I even wonder if I'm on the set of a Hollywood sci-fi blockbuster. The military did not act. We don't know what the military thinks. Is it to hope that Hulk and the yellow giant will die together? Or just plain powerless? I don't want to guess at will, but the current situation makes me feel a little powerless, even hopeless. We ordinary human beings, do we still have a chance in the face of such a terrible guy? Nowadays, monster incidents occur frequently everywhere. Can human beings really be safe and sound under the impact of these terrible monsters? Now, we can only hope that the military's new weapon will be effective. But to be honest, I don't expect much. Perhaps our US military is still disappointing as always. I think the most important thing right now is for the government to issue an evacuation order that will. The reporter was talking excitedly. He is a rookie, he has been working for 2 years and he is still a rookie, because no audience knows him, but this time, he realized his opportunity. As long as he performs well, maybe he can become a first-class reporter from a rookie reporter. As for the danger, he really didn't take it seriously. The height they are at is more than 30 meters high. At such a high altitude, how could the battle below affect them? However, he hesitated for a while, especially thinking of the previous scene where the yellow giant threw the car casually. He still turned off the microphone and then said to the pilot, "Dolly, raise the height another 10 meters, I always feel a little uneasy." Dolly's expression remained unchanged, but she had already begun to laugh at the young man's courage in his heart. Their height was already the highest among the several news helicopters present, and they were still raised, so how could they gain the popularity? Do you want to become a first-class host with such courage? Even though he thought so, he still started to pull up. He is just a pilot, and flying high has no effect on him. Just when he was just starting to climb, Bronsky raised the car and threw it out again. Only this time, the target wasn't the Hulk, but those news helicopters. He's a fighter, not some clown. So he's going to give those guys some warning. Shua, the thrown car narrowly passed under their helicopter. The airflow brought up made the helicopter unstable. At the same time as the faces of several people changed drastically, they heard an explosion next to their ears. Boom! A news plane was hit by a car. Several people stared dumbfounded at the news machine that was smashed not far away. So close. Oh shit, Ray, you saved our lives. Watching the rest of the news helicopters quickly pull away, Bronsky looked back at the panting Hulk. He is very excited, because he felt the strength contained in his body. Now he has the power not inferior to Hulk. And he is proud of his fighting skills. "Hulk, I will kill you," Bronsky growled, then rush over again. Terrifying power, powerful fighting skills. This time, he finally got his chance and pushed Hulk to the ground. With a huge spiked fist, he punched Hulk in the face, punch after punch. This feeling of beating Hulk violently made him even more excited. Rocks were flying around the scene. Everyone is extremely dignified. General Ross never expected it. Bronsky actually had the upper hand. And, it looks like there's a real chance of winning. Only Noah's face remained unchanged. Hulk was furious. But it wasn't enough before, so what was shown was Hulk's normal combat power. When this anger breaks through a certain critical point, That's when the Hulk explodes. And now, Hulk is angry. The consequences of Hulk's anger may be serious. Hulk's anger grew heavier and heavier. The angry roar made everyone's heart palpitate. Blonsky continued to hammer hard without paying attention. Next moment, boom, Hulk directly blocked Bronsky's fist with one hand. Bronsky was taken aback before he could react. Hulk is already angry. Terrifying power is constantly emerging with his anger. Boom, Bronsky was thrown out in an instant. This sudden change shocked everyone. Then, the offense and defense of the two sides switched. Although it was still the same fighting style, the result this time was completely different. The hatred at this time has been completely suppressed by Hulk in terms of strength. The same technique as before, simply cannot continue to give him an advantage. Instead, it was himself who was pushed to the ground by the angry Hulk and beaten violently. He couldn't understand how the Hulk, who was beaten by him just now, suddenly increased in strength. General Ross's eyes flickered. It is as expected. Why is he so attached to the Hulk? You know, whether it is Umbrella's Tyrant or Stark Industries' suit, they are both good choices. Even if Tony Stark is unwilling to sell the suit, at least there is a Tyrant. The combat power of the Tyrant has been fully verified. But the power of the Tyrant is limited. Even those specially made chasers and emperors. But the Hulk is different. Hulk can become stronger. Although at the beginning, he just wanted to capture Hulk, but when he discovered this situation, in his heart, Hulk is the strongest weapon. But now, everything that happened in front of his eyes just proved his judgment once again. The crux of the problem now is how to defeat the Hulk. Bronsky's method has been verified, and the conventional approach is not acceptable. General Ross frowned. Just a little hesitation, directly ordered. Let the Tyrants go up and take down the Hulk together. He can't wait any longer. If you don't take this opportunity to take down Hulk, it's even more impossible to wait for Bronsky to fail completely, relying on the strength of the Tyrant alone. After receiving the order, several Tyrants immediately participated in the battle. The Emperor and Tyrant grabbed Hulk, and threw the unprepared Hulk away, and the pursuers took the opportunity to hammer wildly. Bronsky was furious when he saw this scene. Asshole, this is my fight. I haven't lost yet. Quote, Bronsky's roar could not affect General Ross's judgment. And after solving the Hulk, Bronsky didn't intend to let it go. Not only Hulk, Bronsky is also a good research material. The previous imperfect serum has been tested by the military on more than one person. But almost all the experimenters were killed. Only Bronsky survived. And now, through Hulk's blood, he has become this monster. If the research is successful, he believes that he will soon be able to master the method of making Hulk and controlling Hulk. But General Ross's judgment is also problematic. He thinks he takes it seriously, but still underestimates the horror of Hulk. The addition of the Tyrant not only failed to take down the Hulk, but further stimulated the already furious Hulk. In a blink of an eye, AT-101 was hammered over by the Hulk. If it weren't for the disturbance of other Tyrants and Bronsky, the Tyrant would probably be scrapped immediately. Noah watched this scene expressionlessly. These Tyrants are still too weak. An enhanced version must be developed as soon as possible. Quote. Noah shook his head secretly. This is not a world of biohazard. Even the pursuers are powerless in the face of an existence like the Hulk. Although the speed of awakening is fast, Hulk's skin is rough and fleshy, and he can't move at all. The performance of the Emperor and Tyrant seems to be better than that of the pursuer, but it is also extremely limited. There are other stronger Tyrants, but from the current situation of the pursuers, we can roughly judge the performance of other Tyrants. This is the limitation of T-virus. Now the research on the T-virus is almost complete, and he has mastered the simple strengthening method. If you want to go further, what you need to do is not research, but evolution and mutation. Noah knew this very well. But these growth methods are not reproducible, so the best way is to integrate other excellent genes and deeply optimize the Tyrant. Only in this way can the Tyrant further adapt to this world. Seeing that the situation was not good, General Ross looked gloomy. If Hulk can't be solved, this time, he might be in real trouble. Is there anything else you two can do? General Ross spoke with some expectation. After Tony Stark heard it, he shook his head unwillingly. He also saw the situation of this monster. It is obvious that the more they fight, the stronger they become. Not to mention that the Iron Legion is still not healed. Even if it is healed, I am afraid it may not be able to solve it. Noah thought about it, and then shook his head. Unless he used the real Hulk card, otherwise, with the means he had at this time, there was no good way to deal with Hulk. Seeing that both of them were helpless, General Ross's face became even more gloomy. It seems that only the last resort can be used. Notify the aviation team to take off immediately, target Hulk. Even though it might lead to the Hulk's death, he would rather kill the Hulk than let the Hulk escape again. Yes, General. On the side, the Herald immediately went down to make arrangements, and quickly reported back. The flight formation will arrive in 3 minutes. General Ross nodded, and then said, "Let everyone retreat, leave enough combat space, and prepare for firepower coverage. In 3 minutes, I want this place to become a sea of flames." After finishing speaking, he turned around and left, without any arrangements for Bronsky and the Tyrant. In his opinion, Blonsky has become a monster. Although it is a pity to die, the most important thing is to solve the Hulk. As for the Tyrant, their military has plenty of money. Soon, the originally tight encirclement began to fall back. All the previous news machines also left. Although the use of fighter jets in urban areas can give them a good time to attack on the news. But at this time, no one dared to stand up and make trouble. In the square, only a few terrifying giants were fighting. After being unable to win the battle for so long, Hulk's anger became heavier and heavier. Browns was beaten with some doubts about his life. If it weren't for those tyrants, he would never be Hulk's opponent. 3 minutes passed quickly. Several fighter jets roared from the sky. When they were about to approach, several missiles shot at Hulk and the others. Next moment, boom, boom, a series of missile explosions sounded. In the center of the explosion, there were several terrible screams. "Asshole, I'm going to fight the Hulk. General Ross, let these jets go." Quote. Bronsky growled. There were wounds all over his body, and the missile even tore open his wounds. Facing the power of missiles, even he couldn't be indifferent. He has already realized that if this goes on, he will die. There was a sneer on the corner of General Ross's mouth. Bronsky, no, that's a monster named Abomination. The military doesn't have that kind of monster soldiers. Now that the Air Force is out, let the battle end. As for the Abomination, as long as some cells can be left, it must be enough for research. General Ross's face was cold, and the killing intent on his face was undisguised. After the flying formation skimmed through the air, they turned back again to attack. Soon, Bronsky's cry was too weak to be heard. Several tyrants couldn't even hear the slightest movement. Just when everyone thought that things had come to an end. Roar! Hulk's voice sounded again. Only this time, in Hulk's voice, there was an almost substantive anger. Hulk's strength, because of the damage of these missiles, has once again increased. The next moment, a scrapped car was thrown up by Hulk. Boom! A fighter plane that had just approached was hit by the wing and fell into the distance. Another moment, Hulk stared fixedly at General Ross. He knew that this person must have done it again. Then, Hulk rushed towards where the few people were without hesitation. Tony Stark's face changed drastically, and General Ross hurriedly informed everyone to retreat. No one can resist Hulk's charge at this time. Only Noah stood in place, frowning. I can't run away. Moreover, he didn't intend to run away. Seeing Noah's unresponsive appearance, Tony Stark was about to fly away, but he stopped abruptly. Noah, go. He didn't believe that Noah would not be prepared accordingly if he appeared here. But Noah just frowned, then whispered, "In this world, strength is king." Noah's voice was not high. The surrounding noise prevented Tony Stark from hearing clearly. What did you say? After this delay, Hulk has already rushed over. Tony Stark looked tense. Noah looked at Hulk, who was about to pat everyone into a pulp. Then he continued to say in a calm voice, "In this world, money alone is useless. Otherwise, when everyone knows that oil and water can be squeezed out of your body, sooner or later, something will happen." Quote. Threats come from all directions. He can choose to keep a low profile. But everything around you will not keep you low-key. Otherwise, the surrounding capital, those black hands who are ready to move in the dark, and even the scum of Hell's Kitchen will swallow him and his family without hesitation. So, now it's time for him to make a big splash. While thinking, Noah's body suddenly turned into black streamers. In an instant, his body swelled to a height of more than 2.5 meters. At the same time, his right arm turned into a sharp blade, and his left arm turned into a black shield. The streamlined and muscular body is full of terrifying explosive power. Formed a strange beauty. Such a huge change directly stunned everyone. How could Noah Allen become such a monster? Tony Stark under the mask was also very surprised. At this moment, Noah has completely entered the battle mode. This form is somewhat similar to the original form of Massacre known in his previous life, but it is not the same. Because his current state is a combination of devouring the T-virus, the gene of the innocent giant, and the gene of the Zerg, plus the gene of gold. Although using the black light virus to forcibly swallow it may cause many problems, but with the help of the system, he has almost achieved a perfect fusion. Even if the time is not long, but at this time, he can hardly estimate his own strength. But there is no doubt that Hulk is not his opponent. Holding this certainty of winning, Noah roared. Capital. Connections. In front of his own strength, all of this is false. Only at this moment, what he showed in front of everyone is what he wants to tell everyone. Me, Noah Allen, you can't afford it. War. The next moment, Noah and Hulk made contact. Facing Hulk's huge fist, the sharp blade on Noah's right arm slashed down directly. With a snort, the sharp blade cut across. Hulk let out a cry of pain, and a hole was cut in his chest. This time he was hurt like this for the first time. This intensified his anger. His fist also hit Noah's shield. But Noah did not retreat an inch. The gap between the two sides is visible to the naked eye. In the next moment, Noah's right arm has turned from a sharp blade into a giant hammer, and the hammer hit Hulk's head. Don't look at him hurting Hulk, but that cut is pitiful. Obviously, it would be troublesome to win this way, and he didn't intend to kill Hulk. The sledgehammer struck, and Hulk was thrown out without the slightest ability to resist. To deal with Hulk, Noah knew exactly what to do. So he went right after it. Without giving Hulk a chance to react, both hands had turned into giant iron fists, punching Hulk's head one after another. Hulk's outburst requires anger, and anger needs to be accumulated. In this case, before Hulk's anger accumulates, just beat him unconscious. The abomination does the same, but the abomination is not powerful enough. So he was out of luck. But now, boom, boom, under the huge iron fist, every punch would make Hulk's head shake, and it was already difficult to stay awake. And Noah kept hammering hard. Anger. I don't even have a clear mind, so what can I use to get angry? Gradually, Hulk's aura became weaker and weaker. Behind, Tony Stark and General Ross watched this scene dumbfounded. Hulk, how could he be so weak? That's right, Hulk's performance at this time can only be described as weak. The aura of killing the quartet just now can hardly be seen at all. It even looks quite miserable and sympathetic. Of course, this was just a passing thought on their part. Of course the two knew that Hulk was not weak. It's just that Noah is strong. So strong that Hulk has no ability to resist. On the field, although Noah's actions were fierce, his face was already expressionless. Soon, boom, Hulk's body fell to the ground and passed out completely. Noah stood up calmly and regained his fighting form. In the distance, the undead abomination watched this scene in disbelief. How could the Hulk with such terrifying strength be defeated so easily by that businessman? No, he didn't believe it. Bronski stood up with force. I am going to kill you. He roared and rushed towards Noah frantically. Noah's eyes were slightly cold, and his body was low. The next moment, a few tentacles stretched out from behind him, flying towards the abomination. Shua! The tentacles passed directly through Bronski's chest, and then snapped back. Bronski looked at the hollowness in his chest, and the disbelief in his eyes gradually turned into apathy. Boom! The huge body fell to the ground and completely lost its sound. This scene seemed even more shocking than knocking Hulk unconscious. Such a terrifying monster. If there is a way to injure him so easily, the battle situation will not be dragged to the use of fighters. And Bronski's proud defense was useless in front of Noah. This is the case in the face of hatred. What if the tentacles are attacking Hulk? Will the results change? I'm afraid not. Everyone present looked at Noah like a demon god. Scary and awesome. No one knows that a capitalist who manufactures biological weapons is the most terrifying weapon himself. This kind of person can only be described as a devil. As for God, his fighting posture is not worthy of the title of God. Noah actually prefers this title, because God is feared, but not feared. And rather than being in awe, he hopes that he is an existence that is feared by all enemies. Therefore, he would rather be a devil and let everyone remember him. Watch the battle end. Noah returned to Tony Stark as if nothing had happened. Well, it seems that today's business is over. Seeing Noah's calm appearance, Tony Stark realized that his eyes were extremely complicated. Is this Umbrella's new technology? On the side, General Ross also listened carefully. The power shown by Noah is enough to make the military feel afraid. This kind of power should not be held in the hands of a businessman. However, if such an excellent combat capability can be replicated, it will definitely be greatly improved for the military. Even Hulk has been captured and returned. Konoha's instant combat power is obviously more attractive. Noah smiled and said, "That's right, but the lack of replication is an accidental coincidence." But now Umbrella has developed a commercially available human strengthening serum. General Ross, if the military is interested, welcome to discuss cooperation. Quote, body strengthening serum. Hearing these words, General Ross's eyes were full of shock, and the previous fearful eyes disappeared instantly. The almost fatal serum injected into Bronski cannot be called a qualified serum at all. Unexpectedly, Noah Allen actually said that he had made it. There is no doubt that this is what he is more interested in than the tyrant. Oh, I'm very interested. After this matter is over, I will find you, General Ross said with a smile. Noah also nodded with a smile, and the two sides reached a preliminary cooperation intention. It's just that there is not much sincerity in the smiles of the two of them. At least in the eyes of General Ross, Noah's performance just now is still constantly reappearing in his brain. This person is very dangerous. Bruce Banner is wanted by the military, and General Ross will naturally take him back. And the result of being caught back can be imagined. Just when the military people were about to do it, Noah suddenly said, "Can I talk to him?" General Ross didn't hesitate much, and said, "Of course, you beat him. But be careful, even if we have injected him with anesthesia, no one knows what this monster can do." Quote. Noah looked at Bruce Banner, who woke up but was extremely weak, and said, "Don't worry, he doesn't dare." He didn't say he couldn't, but he didn't dare. Hulk is not a monster. Although the existence of Hulk is very different and has a bad temper, in fact, he is just a child. Will be afraid, but also no tenderness. Otherwise, Betty Ross would have been killed by Hulk long ago. He believed that Hulk must have not forgotten what he did just now. Even if Hulk still has the ability to appear now, it is impossible to show it in front of him. This is fear, the fear created by Noah. Walking up to Bruce Banner, he looked at the obvious guard on Banner's face. Noah said, "Don't be so nervous. I'm just a businessman. If Hulk didn't rush over, I wouldn't do it. It's not in my interest." Seeing Bruce Banner's still alert appearance, Noah didn't say much. Whether he believes it or not, whether others believe it or not. This is his code of conduct. He killed countless people, but he only killed those who opposed him. So even if it is the lives of these soldiers, he will have mercy, because they are not his enemies. Of course, Noah didn't care whether it was the crocodile's tears or the pity of the strong. The purpose of his coming here today is just to get some Hulk's blood, and the blood of hate. As for Hans, it was within his expectations, but not in his plan. I can only say that I encountered it, so I did it. As for the effects produced, it can only be said that there are good and bad. Standing in front of Banner, Noah said in a voice that only he could hear, "Have you considered another possibility, for example, communicating with the Hulk?" After finishing speaking, Noah turned around and walked back, ignoring Banner's expression. "General Ross, it seems that what happened today is over. You are welcome to visit me anytime. I think we should go." Quote. Tony Stark nodded too, and put down his mask. Today's battle made him firmer in his idea of strengthening the battle suit. His current combat power is much worse than Noah's. Even Noah is so careful, let alone him. He, Tony Stark, is the smartest man in the world. Even if he is a superhero, he has to be the strongest one. The two left directly. This time, Noah had nothing to hide. Although the black light virus has not given him the ability to fly, he can already glide. Even flying, in his eyes, is not difficult. It's just a research project on black light, and flying is not within his current priority. This is the difference between him and the protagonist in the original form of Massacre. Alex Mercer can only be optimized by learning on his own, and devouring existing creatures. But he has a system to give the best way to proceed. The key is that this is not a difficult thing for the system. After all he needs is a direction. Therefore, the strength of the black light virus on him far surpassed that of Alex Mercer. 2 streamers left through the air, and General Ross ordered Bruce Banner to be tied up. Bruce Banner's face kept changing. Communicate with Hulk. He never considered the possibility. In his eyes, Hulk is a monster he created. Although he still thinks so until now, it has to be said that No's words gave him some thoughts that he didn't have in the past. Maybe, can it really be successful? This possibility made him feel extremely complicated. As Bruce Banner was escorted onto the plane, the bodies of Abomination and other tyrants were removed, leaving only a mess. Hell's Kitchen. Tony Stark followed Noah here. At this time, Hell's Kitchen was full of silence. The dark alleys that used to be lively at night were empty tonight. Although it's not long, most people have heard the news. Knowing how terrifying Noah Allen, who destroyed those top gangsters, is. If nothing else, Hell's Kitchen will be quiet again for a while. The two ignored it and went straight back to Noah's house. After staying here for a while, Noah also planned to move out. Honestly, I think the most important thing you should do now is to go home and immerse yourself in research. Noah rolled his eyes. This time, Tony Stark took out the wine without hesitation. No, my new generation of battle suits will be available after tonight, as will the Iron Legion, so I'm not in a hurry right now. Iron Legion, heard this word from Tony's mouth again. Noah couldn't help complaining. I thought you were after quality, not quantity. You're right, but quantity is also a kind of quality. Tony didn't care about Noah's ridicule at all. If his Iron Legion took shape, it would never be so weak today. He was unable to participate in the battle later, which had a lot to do with the damage of the battle suit at the beginning of the battle. But if there is the Iron Legion, he can change his battle suit at any time. Then tell me, what is the purpose of your coming here at this time? After hesitating for a moment, Tony Stark said, your body strengthening serum. You can't get vaccinated. Noah directly stopped him from continuing. Before Tony Stark asked, Noah explained. In the final analysis, human body enhanced serum needs the support of the recipient's own physical fitness. But you have such a big wound on your chest, even if it's just a preliminary seeding, I'm afraid it won't last. Unless you deal with the chest problem first. Quote, Tony Stark showed an unsurprising expression. If you want to completely solve the chest problem, you need surgery. And the risk of doing this surgery is too high. Noah continued. About your surgery, I actually have a method that can increase the success rate. Although you cannot accept strengthening, I can prepare a special ultra-diluted serum for you according to your physique. This serum can only work for a short time, and can enhance your cell vitality, as well as cardiopulmonary function. After the injection, the surgery is enough to increase the success rate of your surgery a lot. Quote, hearing this, Tony Stark hesitated. How much can the success rate increase? But he still said. Order one for me. Noah squinted and smiled. Brothers also need to settle accounts clearly, because special order is required, so the price is a little expensive. Sincerity, $60 million. Tony Stark rolled his eyes. $60 million. You are stealing money. Quote. Noah raised his eyebrows and said, you should know how much scientific research is spent on this serum, and how much manpower and material resources are needed to culture the serum for your individual matching. $60 million is already the cost price. Quote. Tony Stark gritted his teeth. Book me. Isn't it just $60 million? I have money. Quote. Noah smiled. Make a small profit. Then, Tony Stark said. I came here this time, mainly for the Technology Arc project. In fact, the other day, I went to see Reed Richards. Quote. Noah froze for a moment. This guy is really unreliable. Didn't you say it's not yet time? Why did you turn around and find someone? Noah frowned. Tony Stark's actions directly broke all his plans. Sure enough, expecting these geniuses to be honest and obedient is itself a stupid idea. What did he say? Tony Stark curled his lips, and then said. He agreed to that, but we have some differences in the direction of action of the Technology Arc project. Quote. Noah rubbed his temples. This is a surprising answer. These two geniuses, in the comics, are both members of the Illuminati. Now there will be differences because of the direction of action. Naturally, it couldn't be Reed Richards who changed, it could only be Tony Stark who had the most contact with him. Although unexpected, it also means that Noah's actions have indeed played a role. Even if he had the answer in his heart, Noah couldn't show it, so he asked with some doubts. I thought that you two technological geniuses would have a common language. You know, you are all the smartest people in the world. Quote. Tony Stark glanced at Noah. Although the words of the smartest group of people made him very useful. But I have to say that speaking from Noah's mouth made him feel a little awkward. Although it is a different field, Noah's achievements, at least for now, surpass him. And Noah didn't count himself in that group of people, and he always felt a little awkward. That sentence is a compliment, Noah naturally said it seriously. Although he is considered smart, without the help of the system, he really cannot compare with Tony Stark and others. At least one level worse. It's just that Noah has a system, plus those researchers in the institute, and he himself is doing the work of centralized organization. This is the reason for his success. It can be said that all three are indispensable. Tony Stark said with a look of disdain. That guy has no idea how dangerous this world is. He is like a smart fool, actually thinking of killing all dangers in the bud. But he didn't even think about whether he had that ability. Quote. Hearing this, Noah looked at Tony Stark quite speechlessly. He dared to say that if he hadn't explained the dangers of this world to him, Tony Stark would definitely be the smart idiot, he said. Noah wondered. You didn't explain it to him. Explained, but didn't tell him the details. Before it is confirmed that he will join, it must be kept secret. However, I think with his IQ, he definitely understands what I mean. Quote. Tony Stark's face was not very good. It seems that his attitude is not very good. Tony Stark sneered, didn't answer the words, just said. That's a fool. There's no doubt about it. He actually planned to establish an organization called the Illuminati. Quote. Noah's heart moved. Unexpectedly, the Illuminati would appear in this way. Now that Reed Richards has made such a decision, I am afraid that the establishment of the Illuminati will be unstoppable. But the existence of the Illuminati itself is a major threat to the Earth. Without himself leading the way behind the scenes, Reed Richards will absolutely lead the Illuminati into the ditch. After pondering for a while, Noah said, There's nothing wrong with the idea of killing all dangers in the bud, the problem is that he doesn't know the dangers facing the world. Although he said that he would establish the Illuminati, I think he still needs some preparation time, after all he needs to inspect the members to join. How about this, when I have time, I will go to him once and see if I can make him change his mind. The Illuminati cannot be established, at least, the so-called, nip all dangers in the bud, as the code of conduct for the Illuminati. He didn't understand at all what kind of strong man that would provoke. It is even possible to directly involve the entire human race. I will not allow him to do this. Quote. A ruthless look flashed in Noah's eyes. The reason why he decided to launch the Science and Technology Arc project was to firmly control the future of the Earth in his own hands. If Reed Richards really wanted to do it, then they can only become enemies. And he has only one view of the enemy, that is, only a dead enemy is a good enemy. Let's hope Reed Richards doesn't do that. After thinking about it, Noah said to Tony Stark helplessly. Tony, you're in a hurry. I told you before that it is not the time yet, we have to wait for other potential members to realize the dangers of this world, and then we will draw people in step by step. The current Reed Richards obviously hasn't realized this yet. Quote. Tony Stark, poker-faced, picked up the red wine. This wine is still good, let me guess, it might be your treasure. Seeing Tony Stark laughing, Noah didn't struggle. I just hope Iron Man doesn't make this mistake again in the future. But he also knew it in his heart. With Tony Stark's conceit, similar situations may still be inevitable in the future. These can only be guided by themselves. Noah looked a little helpless. Unless he really intends to be an enemy of the world. Otherwise, being able to keep Tony Stark in his own camp would have more advantages than disadvantages. After sending Tony Stark away, Noah considered the Fantastic Four. For the Fantastic Four, he still has some covetousness. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, is a very troublesome character. This guy is smart, maybe even smarter than Tony Stark. But smart people must have the faults of smart people. That is ego, thinking that you can solve all problems. Compared with Tony Stark, Reed Richards' conceit is a bit more natural. You can't feel his growth at all. Unlike Tony Stark, although he is conceited, he is growing, and eventually becoming the superhero in everyone's hearts. You can dislike Tony Stark, but you can't help but admire him. But Reed Richards' ego is reckless, even if he is really smart. This is something Noah can't forgive. The other three of the Fantastic Four are interesting though. Especially the Invisible Susan. He had seen it in the news before. That figure, tisk tisk, was unforgettable. But these are things for later. Now that the Technology Arc project has been started by Tony Stark, and Reed Richards also has the idea of creating the Illuminati, he must act. The top priority now is to complete the super team plan as soon as possible. Then solve the problem of Osborn Industries. With the support of Osborn and Stark, his technological arc can be officially launched. In addition, it is the research and replacement of the Hulk gene. These are the foundations of his strength. I'm really looking forward to it. Coming to the basement, Noah took out 2 blood samples. These are the blood of the Hulk and the Abomination. The blood samples of the 2 people were put in the system for identification. Hulk's genetic sample, level 7. This is not what he expected. Hulk's expressive power is indeed not weak, and his potential is even stronger. But even after Hulk is angry, he may have a strength far beyond level 7, but he has never been very clear about the system's judgment method. As for the Abomination, the level is 5. This surprised Noah. It's too low, and it doesn't even match the level 6 combat ability he showed. The similarity between Abomination and Hulk is very high. According to his thinking, he should reach level 6 with the same combat power as him. Even though the system will remove the parts that are highly similar to the Hulk when transforming and judging, it obviously shouldn't be removed during the appraisal. But the system is not controlled by Noah. Perhaps in the judgment of the system, the Abomination is just a defective product. Looking at Hulk's system integration data, Noah shook his head helplessly. It seems that it is not that simple to crack the formula of infinite anger. But this is also normal. If it can be cracked so easily, then the existence of Hulk will not be the only one. Hulk is like this, not to mention hatred. As a variant of the Hulk, he has not much research ability. Seeing the difficulty of researching Marvel mutant genes again, Noah was helpless. These genes are not bad, but it takes time, and it is difficult to be directly proportional to the harvest. Because these genes belong to special variants, there is no replicability, and the research direction is more complicated. It is difficult for the system to bring him much convenience in this regard. The cells extracted by the system can provide him with too many better choices. Compared with them, he prefers those who are born with powerful abilities. Construct relatively simple biological genes. For example, a fighting wolf or an innocent giant. There are detailed data in these 2 systems, and it is much less difficult to study. In the future, if there is a chance to get the genes of the Asgardian Protoss or the Frost Giants, maybe they can study them. Forget it, let's replace it. After giving up, Noah was in high spirits again. This is the Hulk gene. There may not be many genes on Earth that can exceed this level. After the Hulk gene was selected and replaced, the system began to flash rapidly. Soon, a genetic sample appeared. Gene affiliation: Middle-earth Dragon, Smaug. Grade: 7. Value: 143,800. Cell source: fortunately, the one drawn was a level 7 creature. But seeing the owner of this gene, Noah frowned. This is the dragon from the Lord of the Rings. It can reach level 7 data, obviously its genes are powerful. But Noah really doesn't know where this gene should be used. According to Smaug's data, the body length is 141 meters. Perhaps through genetic optimization, it can become even larger. But where should he put such a big monster? Noah's heart sank, and he felt that he might have another collection that he couldn't get out. But thinking about it again, it doesn't seem to be useless. For example, he has been worried about one thing: magic. In the Marvel world, there really is magic. As a creature in the magical world, Smaug must have a certain amount of magic resistance, as well as his scale armor that is hard to hurt with swords, and the ability to breathe fire. Not to mention the great research value, it also provides the possibility of further evolution of the Black Light virus. Thinking of this, Noah smiled. Although it is not easy to reappear the evil dragon, but with Smaug's gene, he can be regarded as officially exposed to magic. Even if he doesn't know magic, as long as he can ignore the damage of magic, he has the ability to resist magic. After using this magical gene in all the biological weapons in his hands, that's when his strength ushered in a transformation. Of course, Smaug's magic was just the beginning. The magic in this world is not that simple. What's more, who said that the evil dragon can't reappear? Noah's mouth curled up. He has already thought of a simple transformation plan. He wants to get a real super biochemical dragon. It's just that if you really want to get this big guy out, you need a lot of resources, and I'm afraid it will take a long time. After this dragon comes out, I heard that there are many monsters in this world. Maybe this world still lacks a real monster hunter. The genes of those giant beasts should also be good materials. With a bit of excitement, Noah put the Smaug gene aside for the time being, and then put the hate gene in the replacement space. As the system flickered, a gene appeared. Gene affiliation: Blood Orchid. Level 4. Value: 2385. Cell source. Seeing this result, Noah was slightly taken aback. If he remembers correctly, the blood orchid should be a plant in a movie called The Plague of the Python, which contains the mystery of eternal life. Things that can live forever are only level 4. Level 3 is the limit of human beings, and level 4 is the beginning of transcendence. Open the detailed information of Blood Orchid and scan it. Noah let out a breath. Sure enough, eternal life is not that simple. However, there was still a hint of joy on Noah's face. Perhaps this thing is his biggest gain this time. Although Blood Orchid does not have the effect of immortality, it is true to prolong life. The key is that this method of prolonging life has no side effects. Thinking of this, Noah seemed to see a handful of banknotes thrown towards him. Annabella's main product seems to be available, but the pricing has to be carefully considered. Although the cost is not much, the target buyers of this kind of thing can only be the real top rich people. After seeing the 2 harvests, Noah is very satisfied, a little unexpected. But to be honest, what he wants most now is a saleable biological weapon that can replace the T-Series. Goliath is a substitute, but obviously only as a supplement. There must be a biological weapon with a different effect from the T-Series, or a similar flagship product. With a bit of regret, Noah shut down the system. It seems that the T-Series will need to persist for a while. After a crazy night, the whole world got to know those 2 scary big men, one named Hulk and the other named Abomination. At the same time, they also noticed a new character, Noah Allen. As strong as Hulk, in the hands of Noah Allen, he has no ability to resist. Numerous organizations have therefore focused their attention on New York. But for those who really have financial resources and information channels, the focus of attention is Noah's proposal of the human body strengthening serum. Countless capitals showed greedy eyes, but then they all retracted their eyes. They don't mind killing a bison like a pack of hungry wolves. But when the prey is a super tiger far beyond their imagination, the best way is to use a legal transaction to solve it. They like to follow the rules. When capitals around the world are ready to move, Noah's super soldier plan has already started. There were nearly 100 battle-hardened members, but Noah only picked out 30 of them. After all, the production of serum also requires cost. Compared with injecting all of them, directly selecting the elite among them is the most cost-effective way. The current first batch of strategic special emergency forces are only used as pilots. It is also the facade of Umbrella. It is not suitable for large-scale expansion without much trouble. Although Umbrella should have been on the government's focus list, but this kind of above-board armed force, let's take it slowly. Anyway, his trump card has never been a super soldier. The significance of the existence of the Strategic Special Emergency Force is only a tactical deterrent. And it's only after outsiders see Umbrella's super soldier that they'll really feel comfortable buying the serum. 9 vials of serum, 3 vials can be injected a month. And this interval is determined by personal physique. Frank injected 3 serums in just 7 days. In addition, several people received 2 injections. This speed surprised Noah. It's just that it's not a big deal now, and the reaction to the injection will get bigger and bigger with the increase of the dose. The soldiers who had been injected with 2 injections could already see obvious changes. Noah especially took several high-level military officials on a tour. After Frank and those level 2 fighters showed their changes respectively, Noah smiled and said, "Everyone, this is the effect of our human strengthening serum. The injection process is divided into 9 times. Every injection is a transformation of the body. It is necessary to be physically fit, without heart and lung diseases, and be able to withstand 1 injection. After 5 injections, even an ordinary human can reach the peak human level. Although there is not yet, but according to the computer simulation results, if it can be injected 7 to 8 times, it is enough to become as strong as Captain America. If you inject the 9th injection, you can go beyond the limit of the human body." Quote. Noah just finished speaking, and everyone's discussion has continued. Being able to become a soldier like Captain America is the ultimate dream of every soldier, even if they are generals, it is hard to escape. There are many enhancement programs in this world. Super Soldier Serum has always been the military's top priority project, even now Noah Allen dare not get involved easily. Not only because of the excellence of super soldiers, but also because this is the belief of the entire military and even the entire United States. Even if there are other strengthening methods that are comparable to Super Soldier Serum, the military will not hesitate to choose Super Soldier Serum. So at this moment, when they suddenly heard that this human-enhanced serum can reach or even exceed the level of Captain America, these generals were naturally shocked. It shouldn't be easy to inject 7 times. Noah nodded. It's natural, the members currently selected by Umbrella are all elites who have retired from the military. Even so, according to the results of computer calculations, there are only 3 members who can theoretically inject 5 times. One can imagine the difficulty. However, as long as the injector can reasonably control his physical condition and make reasonable judgments, there will be no mortality in theory. This is our body strengthening serum, the biggest plus. Quote. Everyone nodded one after another. The security level is high, and the difficulty is also high. That's normal, but even so, it's amazing enough. Just tell me how much it is. $8 million a bottle. The development cost of the serum is expensive, please believe that this is already the cost price. This price made everyone frown. But thinking about it again, it seems very cost-effective to get a soldier who surpasses Captain America for $70 million. As for difficulty, no one cares. With so many soldiers in the military, they can always be selected. Without much hesitation, someone immediately ordered a batch of enhanced serum. Seeing more and more orders, the smile on Noah's face became more and more obvious. Make no mistake, this is big business. And not only the enhanced serum, because of the impact of that battle, the Tyrant series also received a large amount of new orders. At this time, his pocket is truly rich. With the order, Noah went to Annabella again. The blood orchid research still needs to be carried out in Annabella. After seeing the blood orchid, the researcher simply checked the basic data of the blood orchid and was shocked. In their eyes, the blood orchid can be said to represent the future. The importance is even higher than the T-virus. But for Noah, the blood orchid and the T-virus are far from comparable. The birth of life-prolonging medicine can indeed bring him wealth, but wealth is far less important than bringing him strength. If you don't have enough strength, what's the point of living a long time? After arranging the recent encounters, Noah walked on the streets of New York. The closer you are to the wealthy area, the fewer people on the road. He has no Deadpool by his side, nor other security personnel. After the battle in the square, no one felt that he still needed so-called security. Because he himself is the strongest one. As for Deadpool, he had already thrown him into the hive, and Dr. Connor was very interested in him. After all, Deadpool is a freak whose head can grow back in minutes. If it weren't for the fact that the research of the innocent giant had entered an important stage, and he saw the hope of rebirth with a broken arm, he would definitely not mind slicing Deadpool for research. As he was walking, Noah's expression froze slightly. In the distance, a man with a mask on his head was sprinting towards him. Seeing the other party's speed that is different from ordinary people, Noah frowned. Assassination. The opponent's speed is too fast. It has exceeded the limit of ordinary people, and it may have reached the extraordinary standard. Glancing at the emptiness around him, Noah took a deep breath. Don't think about it, he can't think of any possibility except assassination. Unexpectedly, there are actually such bold people. Noah's face was gloomy, and then he greeted the other party. He wanted to see who dared to kill him at this time. Do you really think that Noah Allen's anger has nowhere to vent? Just when the distance between the two sides was less than 10 meters. He even noticed the dismissive look in the other party's eyes. Seeing the opponent's unrelenting speed, Noah coldly prepared to make a move. The next moment, Noah broke out suddenly. Terrifying power erupted from his body. When he was only 3 meters away from the other party, Noah stretched out his right hand. Since there is no one here, it is not surprising that a person is missing. Devour this person and find the organization behind him. This is what Noah thought at this time. Suddenly, an exclamation sounded from in front of him. Ah! Hearing this voice, Noah froze for a moment. But it was too late to stop. Boom! Noah felt that he hit something. The hands instinctively pushed forward. Touched something. Thoughts flashed by. Just in front of him, a woman suddenly appeared. And, still naked, the woman glanced at her body, then quickly covered her chest. Susan Stone. Seeing the appearance of the other party, Noah blurted out. The next moment, the woman in front of her disappeared instantly. Noah reacted immediately. That extremely fast guy probably didn't come to attack him, but was running away. In order to ensure that she would not be injured, Susan wanted to use a stand to separate him from that person. It's just that Susan underestimated his strength, and the force field she stretched out failed to play a corresponding role, which is why this happened. The air stagnated for a while, it was really stagnant. This time, it was a little embarrassing. The enemy took the opportunity to run away. Although Noah can catch up, what to do next is a problem. And I have to say that Noah didn't want to chase him. Well, it feels good. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.